moment, the #1 team in the National Hockey League. Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Kurtz, along with Tom Reed. The North Stars coming off a fairly decent homestand at the Met Center, but they walk into a buzzsaw here at Edmonton. The Oilers are unbeaten in their last 9 games. They are 8-0-1. They won last night in Calgary, Tom Reed, 9-6. And someone was telling us earlier today that in the entire history of the National Hockey League, after 40 games, the Oilers have the second best record of all time.
Well, they've got 62 points on the season, Bob, with 29 victories, 7 losses, and 4 ties, and there seems to be no stopping them. You know, last year we talked about how offensive-minded they were. Right now, after 40 games, they have 235 goals this season, and that's plus 40 on that statistic. They had 195 at the same point last year. And, of course, the North Stars had that big victory against the Chicago Blackhawks at the Met Center, and it was a real, I think, confidence builder for them. But they've got a tough road to hoe here tonight in Edmonton.
Well, whenever anybody tunes in, they're looking at their televisions now back in Minnesota. They're, I think, looking for, the main thing they're looking for is number 99.
Well, I think that's evident by anyone, including myself, and I'm sure that a lot of the people who are here tonight. Wayne Gretzky just should be in a league of his own. In fact, they have different pools up here that the people are involved in, and he's always pulled out of that because he has so many goals and assists. On the year right now, he leads the NHL with 117 points after 40 games on 43 goals and 74 assists. He's unreal. The amount of records that he holds in the National Hockey League is surely something that I doubt will ever be broken unless he breaks it himself. He has 37 NHL records, including 18 which he tied or broke last year.
And he's on a 40-game scoring string right now. We'll be back and talk about that and more as tonight's broadcast comes your way from Edmonton, Alberta.
Kitami, Japan, where Siberian winds drop temperatures to 80 below. Fort Collins in Northwest Territory, winter 8 months long. Svalbard, Norway, it means land of the frozen shores. Wherever you find winters like these, you'll probably find a Corona portable kerosene heater. They're safety tested, economical, easy to use, and rugged enough to be backed by a 3-winter limited warranty. Corona, made for the world's worst winters, like yours.
At participating our own Coast to Coast and Lindale Garden Center.
Let's see, beef bouillon with potatoes lyonnaise or hamburger and fries. You know, it's nice to have a choice. Like the choice TCF gives you on installment loans. You can choose between a fixed interest rate loan or the lower monthly payments of a variable interest rate installment loan. Your choice. No wonder folks are singing the praises of TCF.
Minnesota's largest lighting company, Freeman's Lighting Concepts, is having their annual winter sale. Choose from the timeless classic elegance of Stifel lamps. During Freeman's Lighting Concepts store-wide clearance of the vast selection of lighting fixtures for all tastes and budgets. Track lighting and ceiling fans are also on sale now during Freeman's Lighting Concepts winter clearance. Shop the showroom nearest you. Minnetonka, New Brighton, Edina, Maplewood. Freeman's Lighting Concepts.
I'm Judd from Omni Pool and Spa, and this is my brother Tom.
We are confident that in our complete line of spas there is a package to fit both your budget and your taste. We carry only the finest spas at the best prices in the Twin Cities. Give us a call at 429-3456 and our trained staff will be happy to answer any questions you may have about spas.
Or come in and visit our newly completed showroom or call 429-3456 for a presentation in the comfort of your own home. 429-3456. Do something good for yourself.
Bob Kurtz and Tom Reed back with you here in Edmonton, Alberta. The North Stars going against the high-flying Edmonton Oilers, who are #1 in the overall standings of the National Hockey League this year. After 40 games, the Oilers with 29 wins, 7 losses and 4 ties, which figures out to a win percentage of .775. At home, as you might imagine, they're also the best team in the National Hockey League. They have lost but once this year in 18 home games here at the Coliseum. Their record standing at 14 victories, 1 loss, and 3 ties. Grant Fuhr will be getting the starting call in goal tonight for the Edmonton Oilers, and it'll be Don Beaupre in the nets tonight for the Minnesota North Stars. For the North Stars, this is their 40th game of the year. They have won 19, lost 15, and tied 4 for a total of 42 points. They're 8-8-2 away from home for a total of 18 points. They played very well on the road this year.
Well, they have, Bob, and one of the places they played well was right here in Edmonton back on October the 9th when they lost to the Oilers in an overtime game, 4-3. They went back to the Twin Cities on November the 25th where they played Edmonton, and they had a 2-2 tie there. So they have had two very close games with these Oilers, and I look for something exciting to happen here tonight. You mentioned the Oilers' home record here. Once again, a sellout crowd here, and it always has been. A lot of people come to see how well the Oilers how much the Oilers have improved. The one thing that sticks in everyone's mind is the fact that the Oilers have not been able to beat the New York Rangers.
Islanders.
New York Islanders, that's right. Last year in the playoffs, and continue just this year, where the Islanders seem to dominate them as far as the defensive play goes.
Well, Billy Smith, of course, has been a big thorn in their side. He seems to come up with the big games every time they play the Edmonton Oilers, and the North Stars, of course, are hoping that Don Beaupre come up with that type of effort here tonight. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Canadian National Anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and the bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red flare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the brave and the home of the brave? Oh, Canada, our home and native land, through myriad long, in all license common, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, the throne, oh, strong and free, from far and wide, oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard
Tom Reed and Bob Kurtz back here at the Northlands Coliseum. The referee in the center, Ronnie Wicks, a senior member in the National Hockey League in the officiating capacity, assisted by Randy Mitten and Sweet Knox. In goal tonight for the North Stars will be Donnie Beaupre. In the 14 games he's played, 5.35 average, giving up 64 goals, 6 victories, 7 losses in that stretch. And at the other end, Grant Fear with a 3.57 average in the 23 games. And he has played in all of the games against the North Stars this year. In the first game, he faced 49 shots. In the second game, 43 shots. And a look at Wayne Gretzky, the recipient of many awards. Another one here tonight. He was voted the NHL Player of the Month for the 3rd month in a row in the National Hockey League. And let's go to Bob Kurtz in the play-by-play.
Well, Gretzky starting at center for Edmonton. Paul Coffey up with the puck now for the Oilers as we're underway. Play is back in the North Star end. Beaupre is swinging it up along the boards. Brian Bellows over there for the North Stars. Bonnie, Minnesota's trying to come out. Oilers, though, with Pozar keeping it in. Broken up by Atkin, and out to center come the North Stars. Atkin leads the charge across the line. Bellows from the left wing fires wide. And Huddy now for Edmonton as the Oilers come out with Pozar carrying out to center. Now it's the great one. Gretzky getting it ahead. Pass was tipped by Lindgren at the line and finally played into the North Star zone. Back after it now, Brad Maxwell back behind the goal. Maxwell having some difficulty on the way out. Gretzky's pass was tipped. Kozar now in the corner, tied up by Napier. Also moving in is Curry. Puck was kicked free. And Lindgren now comes up with the puck for Minnesota. Lindgren wrapping along the board, stopped by Curry. Off for Gretzky too far, and Lindgren now will start out for the North Stars out to center. Mark Napier, who had a couple of goals against Chicago, played in. And behind the goal, Coffey overskated it. Bellows tied up by Huddy. And moving in is Kozar. We'll get a face-off coming up in the Edmonton zone.
Well, anytime you have two explosive teams like this, you have to be a little bit cautious at the beginning. I look at the coach of the North Stars, Bill Mahoney. Kind of plays, getting a lot of mileage out of that gum right now. But he knows he's got his work cut out for him tonight. He's got to juggle those lines properly. Being the visiting club, of course, he does not get the last change. He has to make the change first. And so Edmonton can put on anyone they want as far as checking lines go.
Well, the Oilers come up with a big one last night, 9-6 over Calgary at the Saddle Dome. Unbeaten in their last 9. McClellan at center. Dropping back now, Randy Gregg getting it ahead to McClellan. Taken out by Gordy Roberts as the puck goes deep into the North Star zone. Covering up out in front now, Al McAdam wheels down the left wing. Ferguson and Mandich are with him. Mandich dumping it into the Oilers zone. Gracieur stopping it back behind the goal. Randy Gregg clearing up along the boards. Mandich now will keep it in for Minnesota's shot. And a save by Fuhr. Puck still loose out in front. Finally knocked away from there by the Oilers. And Payne for the North Stars for Ferguson. Now Ferguson back for Payne. A shot that deflects and goes into the crowd. The nice broadcast comes your way from Edmonton, Alberta.
A fast bank won't listen to your troubles, but when you're out of cash and low on gas, you want speed, not sympathy. A fast bank won't greet you by name, but when you're 20 minutes late, you want money, not recognition. A fast bank won't smile and say hello, but at 3 in the morning, neither would you. Fast Bank. What it lacks in personality, it makes up for in long hours.
Tom Reed and Bob Kurtz back here at the Northlands Coliseum, and we're just 1 minute and 54 seconds into the first period, and we're scoreless.
Neil Brott at center. Brian Lawton and Willie Flynn with him. Giles and Hartsburg manning the defense as Hartsburg takes a shot. It goes wide. And now Messier for the Oilers. Streaks down the left side. Carries across the North Star line. Drops it back. Here's a chance for Anderson. He scored! Messier to Glenn Anderson. All alone on Beaupre, and it's 1-0 Edmonton.
Well, the North Stars defensively, watch what happens. Messier takes a puck, and they all move towards him. That just leaves Anderson wide open. Giles goes down because he knows it's a 2-on-1. Anderson very alertly cuts to his left and beats Beaupre cleanly for the first goal of this hockey game. And Edmonton leads 1-0 the time of the goal, 2:07 of period number 1.
Anderson gets the goal, his 25th goal of the season, and Edmonton leads it by a score of 1-0. Oilers winding up in their own zone. This is low. Ed Manning it to center. Broken up there by Brian Lawton. Pass goes behind Broughton across the line and finally whistled down offside. So we've played 2:22 of the first period. 1-0 Oilers.
And there's a look at the coach and general manager of the Edmonton Oilers, and that was Glenn Sather from our North Stars. There's that shot once again. You see how he controlled that puck? He had his head up when he knew where he wanted to go with it. Puck came to him. He's just wide open, walked in very alertly, looked for that opening and beat Beaupre to Beaupre's right, and that gave Edmonton the 1-0 lead.
The Oilers, by the way, have not lost a game this year, Tommy, in which they've taken the lead into the third period. You want to go a little step further than that? They haven't lost a game in 2 years in which they've taken the lead into the third period. What are they? 17-2-2 this year when they scored the first goal
of the hockey game, right?
Giles now for Minnesota. Dropping off now for Captain Craig Hartsburg. Hartsburg too far for Dennis Marouk all the way down the ice. Back after it, Paul Coffey, and icing is the call against Minnesota.
KMSB Television has purchased the broadcast rights of the Minnesota North Stars hockey game solely for the entertainment of our audience. No broadcast, rebroadcast, or the use of the pictures, descriptions, and account of this copyrighted telecast is permitted without written authority of the Minnesota North Stars or KMSB Television.
Oilers are 14 points ahead of last year's pace. The North Stars are running 6 points behind last year's pace. Although the North Stars lead the Norris division, Out to center ice now for Marouk. Marouk getting it across the line. Takes the shot. A save by Fuhr. Marouk on the rebound. He fires wide. Back behind the goal now. Bozard draped on there by Ashton. Cicerelli is also there. Huddy moving in. Puck comes loose. And Coffey now for the Oilers. Starting out to center. All Coffey carrying across the North Star line. Back for Gretzky. Bumped by Ashton. And play comes back to center ice. There's Gretzky. Broken up finally by Dino Cicerelli. Out now for Marouk. Marouk moving it ahead for Ashton on the left wing. Bumped over there by Huddy. Here come the Oilers again with the NHL's top offensive defenseman. Paul Coffey carrying across the North Star line. Back for Gretzky. And it's whistled down offside.
And some out-of-town scores. Buffalo leads Winnipeg by a score of 7-1. That's in the third period. The New Jersey Devils and the New York Rangers are tied up at 2 apiece in the third period. And Chicago leads Toronto in Chicago 2-1 in period number 2. Here comes Dennis Marouk in here once again. He gets that shot away, but watch where the rebound comes right to him. He keeps going straight towards net, so he gets that second opportunity.
Ashton moves it down the left wing. Too far for Bellows. Randy Gregg now back behind the goal. Dropping it off there for Pat Conacher. Keeping it in from the North Stars is Lindgren with his shot, and a 6 save by Grant Fuhr as the Oilers now with Conacher at center ice. Going across the North Star line, bumped by Maxwell. Gregg keeping in now for Edmonton. Messier in the corner, nice centering pass. Lindstrom couldn't get the shot off. As back behind the goal down, starting out is Brad Maxwell. Too far for Bellows at center, broken up by Gregg. Lindgren now regroups for Minnesota. Off for Brad Maxwell. Back to center ice, Maxwell for the North Stars. Moving it down the left side for Acton. Played into the corner, Bellows. Bumped over there by Dale Hunter. Puck cleared up along the boards. Keeping it in now is Lindgren. Lindgren takes a shot. That was knocked down by Gregg on the defense. And here come the Oilers coming out 3-on-2. Lindgren dropping it back, taking the return pass out in front. Stopped by Beaupre. As Napier now trying to clear it out of there. Beaupre steers it to the corner. Bellows can't get it out. McClellan a shot. That's deflected wide. As it's all Edmonton so far in the early moments of the game.
Well, the North Stars are being a little bit hesitant, and as a result, the Edmonton Oilers are getting some golden opportunities.
Two-line pass, that's whistled down offside. The nice broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum. And Tom Reed back here at Edmonton, where it's 1-0 in favor of the Oilers. First goal of the game, Anderson from Messier, 2:07 of the first period. And for Anderson, his 25th goal of the year. Vogelin getting it out to center, broken up there by Mandich of Minnesota. Sent back into the Edmonton zone. Vogelin now bumped over there by Ferguson. Payne moves in for the North Stars. Lowe protecting out in front as McAdam now controls. Off for George Ferguson. Ferguson shot blocked by Vogelin. Getting it ahead now for Pat Hughes and out to center ice. Played there by McClellan across the line. McClellan taken down by Gordy Roberts, and Roberts is going to get the gate for the North Stars. Nice broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum.
I deal in used electronics. Business is kind of slow, but just you wait till I get all those personal computers people are going to buy but never really use. If it was me, I'd go to Computerland and get the Works. The Works is a plan where you're going to buy the right computer and get the most out of it, or you get your money back. Guaranteed. Oh. So you can either do business with Computerland or with me. I don't give money back to no one.
Well, Gordy Roberts picks up the first penalty of this hockey game. It was a holding penalty, and you'll see why right here. He just kind of grabs down there a little bit, and the time of the penalty to Roberts for holding of the North Stars, 5:39.
So Edmonton, which has a pretty potent power play, will go to work now. Play going back into the Edmonton zone. Edmonton this year with 46 goals and 158 chances figures out to 29.1%, which is second best in the National Hockey League. Hartsburg clearing back in now to the Edmonton zone as we approach the 6-minute mark here at period number 1. And our score 1-0 in favor of the Oilers. Out they come now with Anderson at center. Anderson clearing into the North Star zone, chasing it down behind the goal. Giles tried to clear. Gregg now keeping it in for the Oilers. And then Giles given a second chance, gets it all the way down the ice. Lowe getting it across now for Gregg at center. Gregg ahead for Anderson. Anderson for Messier. Messier trying to get up ahead of steam, carrying across the line, avoided McAdam, moves in, he's still dangerous, neat move by Messier, and a nice save by Beaupre. As finally Ferguson now starts back the other way.
Well, Messier had all kinds of time there, Bob. No one was really bothering him all the way in. He just took the puck and did what he wanted to do, controlled it until he had the good opportunity to take the shot on net.
55 seconds to go in the holding call against Gordy Roberts as Broughton had it tipped out to center and finally backhands it back into the Edmonton zone. We're approaching the 7-minute mark of the first period. Our score 1-0 for the Edmonton Oilers. Here comes Paul Coffey. These Oilers can scoot. Coffey across the line, stopped by Lindgren, and the play whistled down offside.
Well, Buffalo has now taken an 8-2 lead in Buffalo over the Winnipeg Jets. Bill Housley scoring his second goal in that hockey game.
North Stars in action tomorrow night. They'll be playing the Calgary Flames at the Saddle Dome. Our next telecast, though, won't be until Friday night, the 20th of January. And we're at the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit to duel the improved Red Wings. Cross the line, Huddy, stopped by Lindgren, picked up by Pozar. Pozar having some difficulty there with Broughton, but retrieves the puck. Pozar moving across, dropping it back off now for Huddy, off for Gretzky. Huddy watched there by Lindgren, went down, lost a glove. Puck going back behind the goal. Crowd wants a hooking call, but they're not going to get it as Lindgren now tried to steer it past Huddy, failed to do so. 5 seconds to go in the manpower advantage for Edmonton as Gretzky doing a nifty move, a drive, he scored! Wayne Gretzky, 41 straight games.
Well, I think his actions speak for the hockey player that he is. He's going against one of the best in the likes of Neil Broughton right here. But watch, Broughton's not able to contain him. He just swings away from him. He lets the shot go. He knows where he wants to go with it. Beaupre had good vision on it, but he just seemed to lose it. Whether the puck dropped or not, I'm not sure. But you can see the vision that Beaupre had. But Gretzky's got that shot, and he puts it in a power play goal. And the Edmonton Oilers have taken a 2-0 lead. And for Wayne Gretzky, his 44th goal on the season, and power play goal number 11.
Now, it won't go in the books as a power play goal. It was scored at 7:41, which will be 2 seconds after Roberts was back, although, of course, Gordy was not in the play. So the penalty very much figured in the goal. But it's 2-0 now in favor of the Edmonton Oilers as they have dominated the early going. Roberts now ahead too far for Ashton as play will go deep into the Edmonton end. Gregg goes back, icing to call. Tonight's broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum.
Slick.
Tempo.
Quick.
Front-wheel drive tempo.
Room.
Tempo.
Zoom.
Front-wheel drive tempo.
Style.
Tempo.
Smile.
Front-wheel drive tempo.
Board.
Tempo.
Ford.
Front-wheel drive tempo.
Snow.
Tempo.
Go.
Front-wheel drive tempo.
Drive the 1984 Tempo at your Northland Ford dealer today.
A look at Wayne Gretzky as he gets a little bit of cooling down and a refreshing drink of water. I wonder if he ever gets tired in these games.
What do you do, though, if you're a defenseman? I mean, he poses all kinds of problems.
He's got... It's tough to play against him because he does everything so well. You know, some players, they have certain talents in some areas, whether it's goal scoring or puck handling or defensive play, whatever. But he does everything, and he's just very, very tough to contain. I've never had the opportunity to play against him, but just watching him here is a real treat.
How would he have fared in the older physical game?
It's tough to say, Bob. You know, you look at him, he never misses games, and you can't tell me guys aren't taking runs at him at times, trying to get him out of the game, but he has not missed a game since he came on with the Edmonton Oilers 4 years ago. And he just continues to play and gets stronger and stronger, and they can't knock him out of the lineup.
Off now for Bellows. His pass broken up out in front. As McClellan getting it ahead now for Dave Hunter. Out to center. Stopped there by Kurt Giles. Giles circling back in his own zone, getting it across the blue line, then knocked back in. As McClellan doing a fine job there for Edmonton. Don Jackson failed to keep it in. Penalty coming up against the Oilers. Here's Bellows. And the play whistled down offside. Tonight's broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum.
This Bud's for everyone who keeps things rolling on the mighty Mississippi.
Breakaway barge, please respond.
Let's get him.
This is the Nation Golding. We're right below you and we on our way out.
I'll come around on the port side and bumper there.
Yeah, just for you. That distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser.
For all you do, this Bud's for you.
Well, Dave Hunter will pick up an elbowing penalty for the Edmonton Oilers at 8:46. Pick it up right here. Watch the elbow come up right there. And that's the reason for the referee, Ron Wicks, making the call. The North Stars, who rank first in the National Hockey League in power play goals, with 49 goals and 167 opportunities, 29.3% will get their first power play opportunity.
Off now for Neil Broughton. Broughton having some difficulty with Yari Curry. Now Gretzky is after Broughton as Broughton drops it off for Brad Maxwell. We've reached the 9-minute mark here in the first period. It is 2-0 in favor of the Edmonton Oilers. Behind the goal now for Marouk. Marouk dropping back for Broughton. A drive. That one goes wide and score on the rebound. Dennis Marouk played the carom on the backhand past the goaltender Fuhrer. And the North Stars have a power play goal, and it's 2-1 Oilers.
Well, you can see how lively those boards are. Watch how it comes off the back boards on the shot. Right there, Marouk very alertly has a stick down the ice. He picks up the rebounds and comes off on the opposite side of the net. And with the goaltender, Grant Fuhrer, out of position, just backhands it very high, knowing full well the goaltender is going to go down. And that brings the North Stars back into contention here. The first goal of the game for the North Stars and for Dennis Marouk. That is goal number 10 of the season. And the Edmonton Oilers still lead 2-1.
So 9-11, the time of the power play goal by Marouk, and it's 2-1 Edmonton. Gordy Roberts, bothered there by Anderson, plays the puck and it goes into the crowd. 10:36 remains here in the first period, and our score 2-1 in favor of the Edmonton Oilers.
Gordy Roberts picking up 20 assists in his last 26 games. The North Star bench coming a little bit more alive. The assist on that goal, Broughton and Ciccarelli.
Talk about the North Stars being 6 points behind their pace of a year ago, yet leading the Norris division. Nice column by Doug Groh at the Minneapolis Tribune the other day, talking about fans booing the Chicago uniform, but it really isn't the same team as it was a year ago.
Well, they've had so many injuries lately that it's really been tough for them to get anything going. As you mentioned, it doesn't even look like the same roster.
And last year, the North Stars had a pretty decent year, but Chicago had a phenomenal season.
Yes, they did.
Playoffs are going to be interesting. Boy, things are jammed up. Last I looked this morning, the Hawks are in last place.
That's unusual, but you have to look at the type of year they've had. They've had missing Al Secord certainly has hurt them, and Tommy Lysak, the suspension, then also the injury to their captain, Darryl Sutter, the other night, and we'd like to say hello to him at Methodist Hospital. We hope he's enjoying this telecast, and we certainly wish him, and I know all the fans back in the Twin Cities, hope that he's able to get out of the hospital and back in that lineup very soon. But, you got that. Will be operated on for the cheekbone. We certainly wish you all the best. Something a lot of players have gone through. But you have to face those pucks.
Here comes Kenny Linsman now going across the line. Roberts tries to spin him around. Mandich gives him a run up against the glass. As Roberts now for Minnesota starts back. Out to center now, Neil Broughton for the North Stars, going across the line, moving it to Willie Plett. Plett's pass was tipped. North Stars keep it in, but here they come. Here come the Oilers. Messier and Linsman. Linsman was spun around. Play is ruled onside as Beaupre makes the play.
Well, Linsman got his foot back on the blue line, and that enabled the Edmonton Oilers to stay onside. He was reaching for it, and his legs aren't that long, but he's able to get on there to keep the play onside and keep the flow going.
9 minutes, 35 seconds to go first period. 2-1 in favor of Edmonton.
See if we can pick up Linsman right here. He got hit right at the line there as Messier was carrying the puck across the line, but he was able to do it, and you can see Beaupre standing up facing Messier, and Messier really at a bad angle there, and Beaupre able to come to the save.
Shots on goal thus far, 5 for the Oilers and 4 for the North Stars. This is the third and final meeting between the two teams this year. Oilers won here in overtime, and they tied in the Twin Cities 2-2. Out now, Dino Cicerelli. Cicerelli cranking it from center, gloved and dropped by Grant Fuhr. And behind the goal, Huddy now steering it along to Dave Hunter on the left wing. Out to center now to Conacher, going across the line, back for Hunter, takes the shot. Beaupre makes the save and holds on, and the faceoff will come in the North Star zone.
Well, you can't afford to give up any rebounds in the National Hockey League, and certainly to this team right here in Edmonton. And Beaupre very alertly grabbing onto that puck, holding it in his midsection, and forcing the face-off to his right.
Now, don't forget, both the Hartford Whalers and Toronto Maple Leafs making their final appearances of the season at the Met next week. The Whalers, led by Mark Johnson, invade the Met Tuesday, January 10th, and on Thursday, the 12th, the Stars will host the Maple Leafs, and of course Saturday night, the 7th, the Vancouver Canucks in. So the Stars going back to the Met Center for a 3-game homestand. Long pass for Cicerelli, broken up there by Coffey. Coffey dropping it back to Huddy inside his zone. Back for Coffey, who has 19 goals this year, and out to center. Off for Huddy, back across the line, broken up there by Craig Hartsburg. Hartsburg for the North Stars. With 8 minutes and 35 seconds to go here in the first period, this is Ashton across the line. Easy save for Grant Fuhr, who holds on, and we'll get a face-off coming up in the Edmonton zone. 2-1 our score in favor of the Oilers. Anderson and Gretzky, the great one, has scored. Baruch has answered for Minnesota.
Well, look at number 31, Grant Fuhr, out of Spring Grove, Alberta, 5'10", 185 pounds. He was a first-round draft choice of Edmonton back in 1981.
Keith Acton at center, Mark Napier on the right wing, Brian Bellows now a left wing with Maxwell and Lars Lindgren manning the point. Bellows a shot, and that's knocked away by Fuhr. Maxwell drives one wide, and Gretzky out to center. Bozar spun around as Maxwell now controls for the North Stars. Back up to center ice, picked up there by Napier. Napier getting it across the line, and now Gretzky turns the other way for the Oilers to Bozar. Bozar at center as we approach the 12-minute mark here of period number 1. It is 2-1 in favor of the Oilers. Lars Lindgren playing it back in. Fuhr knocks it away, and Don Jackson goes back behind the goal, former North Star. Alan Chalky at the University of Notre Dame out to center. Picked up there by Gretzky, who goes across the line. And to drop it back, Napier broke that up. Gretzky gets it back again. Gretzky has Bozar in the clear. Rolled it out in front, but Bozar was tied up. Jackson now plays it for Gretzky. Back behind the goal. Bozar on the backhand. Now Curry has passed. Broken up by Lars Lindgren. Finally, Maxwell will get the puck across the line for the North Stars. Carrying out to center. 3-on-2 across the line. Maxwell along with Acton. Now McAdam out of Prince Edward Island. Back for Acton. Acton out in front. Oh, it was tipped wide. As Bellows just missed the one side of the net, which was open from Grant Fuhr. And we'll get the face-off coming up in the Edmonton zone. 7:05 remaining here first period. Our score 2-1 in favor of the Oilers. Now don't miss your only chance to see the Vancouver Canucks and scoring sensation Tony Tanney. The Stars will host Vancouver this Saturday at 7:30. Good seats are still available for this game, and you can charge them to your Visa, Master Charge, or Shopper's Charge by calling 853-9300. The Stars in Vancouver. Ferguson, the shot goes wide. McAdam behind the goal. This entering pass hit the net as the Oilers now with Hughes trying to come out, and the puck goes into the crowd, and we'll get a face-off in the Minnesota end.
Well, we've had a number of line changes over the last few games that Coach Bill Mahoney and his assistant coach Murray Oliver has instituted, trying to get the team going. And of course that takes Brian Bellows over to the left wing as Mark Napier goes on to the right wing. And it's quite a transition to make at times for players.
Here come the Oilers again with Hunter cutting down the left side. Mandich has a hold of him and rides him out. Now Payne bumped over there by McClellan. McClellan gets right back up again, plays it out in front, and Mandich broke it up. Now Mandich for Minnesota. And we got a penalty now coming up against the North Stars, Gordy Roberts.
Well, number 16 of Edmonton, Pat Hughes, ran into Roberts and fell down. And I don't really believe that Ron Wick saw the initial play, but he did call the interference call. Try and pick it up right here. See him going down right there as he got caught in the stick, and Roberts did not have, I don't believe, very kind words to say to the referee, Ron Wicks, but nevertheless, Roberts will pick up his second penalty of this hockey game, and the time of this penalty will be 13:29 of the first period, with Edmonton leading 2-1 over the North Stars.
So for the second time in the game, the Oilers will go on the power play. During their first man-power advantage, Gretzky scored 2 seconds after Roberts vacated the penalty box. So officially not a power play goal, but the penalty certainly figured in the goal by Gretzky, which ran his scoring string to 41 straight. Linsman battling there for the Oilers, trying to keep it in, and doing so is Lowe on the left point, off now for Messier. Messier back behind the goal, getting it over for Randy Gregg. Bothering him was McAdam. His play comes out to center with 1:35 to go in the penalty time to Roberts. Randy Gregg for the Oilers, getting it across for Messier. Tied up there by Ferguson, who took a whack at it. Lowe, though, keeps it in. Now Anderson rolls it across. McAdam picked it off, and Lowe controls it center for the Oilers. 1 minute 15 seconds to go in the penalty time to Roberts. 5:45 to go first period. 2-1 in favor of Edmonton. Lowe at center. Dropping it back now for Messier. Bellows will break this up at the North Star line. Brian Bellows. Brad Maxwell. Puck is bounding along. Maxey rolls it across the Edmonton line. 52 seconds. Now to go in the penalty time to Roberts. Paul Coffey. Ahead now for Yaroslav Pozar. Moving across the line. Off for Gretzky, but too far. That's ruled offside. With 43 seconds now to go in the penalty time to Gordy Roberts.
Well, the one thing the North Stars are doing right now is they're challenging Edmonton when they have the puck right away. They're not giving them a chance to get set up. That's a dangerous thing if you allow them to get set up in your own end. But the North Stars are going at them. As a result, Edmonton not getting any good opportunities to get those shots on net.
Look there at Charlie Huddy. By the way, Dave Semenko out of the lineup tonight. He was injured last night in Calgary, and it is not known how long he'll be out. As a sprained knee, I believe. Picked up by Gretzky. Gretzky goes in the corner now for Edmonton. Dropping it back. There's a drive by Coffey, and Beaupre stuck a peek over his shoulder to see whether that twine was bulging behind him.
Well, Coffey's got that big shot. In fact, he leads the NHL as far as a top-scoring defenseman with 19 goals and 34 assists for 53 points. You see the puck come back to him right here. Doesn't even stop it, just lets it fly. And Beaupre able to get down on top of it to hold it and bring the face-off.
Gretzky off the face-off, out in front, and Pozar couldn't get there. Now Charlie Huddy with 28 seconds to go in the penalty time. Off now for Gretzky, back for Huddy. Huddy takes a shot. That was tipped by Pozar. Gretzky golfs it over the top of the goal. Edmonton with a lot of heat on. Curry now takes a shot off for Gretzky. Watched there by Hartsburg. Gretzky back behind the goal. Off for Huddy, score! Gary Curry on a beautiful pass from Gretzky, and it is 3-1 Edmonton.
And that was definitely powerful. Now look for Curry is number 17 on the left-hand side of your screen. He takes that perfect pass from Gretzky, stick down in position, and he just lets it go. But Gretzky's got that phenomenal ability to see players in the open, as he does right here. He picks him up from the far side before Broughton can get over to him. Curry puts it in the net to give a power play goal to Edmonton and a 3-1 lead. And that's goal number 36 for Yuri Curry.
Linsman takes a shot, but that's whistled offside. 15:20, the time of the power play goal. And so with 4:31 now left here at the initial period, it is 3-1 in favor of the Edmonton Oilers. And Gretzky has been phenomenal in this game tonight.
Assisted by number 99, Wayne Gretzky, and number 22, Charlie Huddy.
Huddy draws an assist, so Curry from Gretzky and Huddy. Power play goal at 15:20. Play is whistled down, and we'll take a break as tonight's broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum.
Could I please have the attention of anybody who still hasn't switched to Burger King? We didn't want to resort to this, but you leave us no choice.
Presenting the ultimate weapon.
We hope it won't be necessary to do this again.
Now look at number 15, Pat Conacher, 24 years of age. He was born right here in Edmonton. It's going to be his dream to play for the Oilers right here in his hometown.
Vogelin straightened up Baruch there at the line. Baruch now plays it ahead to the Edmonton line. 3-1 in favor of the Oilers is Dino Cicerelli. Moving it ahead there for Ashton. Now Maxwell for the North Stars, getting it for Lars Lindgren. Lindgren across the line, pops it out in front, and Fuhr plays the bounce and holds on, and we'll get a face-off coming up in the Edmonton zone. We have now passed the 16-minute mark here in the first period. 3-1 Oilers.
We have an update on the out-of-town scoreboard. Buffalo has defeated Winnipeg, a final now, 9-4. So a lot of goal scoring there in Buffalo tonight. Also, Chicago leading Toronto 3-1. That's in the second period. It's Chicago, and also at the New York Ranger home ice, it's 3-3 between the Rangers and the New Jersey Devils in the third period.
And an interesting one here in Edmonton. The Oilers right now lead by a pair with 3 minutes 50 seconds to go, first period. Oilers with the second best record after 40 games in the history of the National Hockey League. Only the Montreal Canadiens, that year they only lost 9 all year, had a better record at the halfway point. Lowe now controls the center for Edmonton with 3.5 minutes to go here in the first period. Connie Popre stopping it there for the North Stars. Now Brad Maxwell, watched by Conacher, sending it all the way down the ice. Grant Fuhr with an easy one. Handing off now for Randy Gregg. Carrying back to center, ahead for Dave Hunter, watched by Gordy Roberts. Now Brian Lawton gets in the fray. He was taken down. As Jackson will move it for Edmonton up on the left wing for Dave Hunter. Hunter for the Oilers, clearing into the North Star zone, up along the boards, hit by Hughes. Fighting to keep it in is Gregg, rolling it out in front. No one there for Edmonton. As Mandich ahead too far for Flett. Don Jackson took a shot. That was knocked down. Here's Broughton. Broughton with Lawton. Out in center, moving it ahead for Lawton. Lawton cutting it in a backhanded shot. Knocked away by Fuhr. Rebound goes wide. Flett goes after it. Now Lawton in the fray, back behind the goal with Dave Hunter. Willie Flett representing the North Stars also. And the face-off will go to the left of Fuhr with 2:35 to play in the first period.
A good play was made by number 21 of Edmonton, Randy Gregg. When Lawton came down on him, he just forced Lawton to go to the backhand. Most players have a much weaker shot on the backhand, but that's what a defenseman will try to do, is to force him to go to his backhand, taking away the effectiveness of that shot. Lawton went just the way the defenseman wanted him to go, got one shot away, a little bit of a rebound, but it made a shot that much weaker by going to that type of a shot.
They got a look at Lawton there. We saw Pat LaFontaine in the Gopher USA game on January 1st. The one that's making all the headlines this year as far as Rookie of the Year, Yzerman of Detroit.
He's having a tremendous year for the Red Wings, and you know, sometimes the rookies come in, they're flying at a high so often, but he has really turned into be a real solid threat for Detroit when he's on the ice.
Off the face-off, here come the Oilers now, with Hunter carrying to center, clearing it into the North Star zone. Beaupre leaving it back there for Mandich. Now we got Gordy Roberts and Dave Hunter going at it with a penalty coming up. Roberts has a hold of him. The gloves go down.
This is a little bit more of a wrestling match than anything else. Hunter went right after Roberts. Because you see they're hanging on right now, and not much damage is going to be done as the linesman Randy Vinton and Swede Knox get in between them, and we'll try to break this up. The time of the coincidental penalties will come at 17:39 of the first period.
I remind you again that both the Hartford Whalers and Toronto Maple Leafs are making their final appearances of the season at the Met next week. The Whalers, led by former North Star Mark Johnson, invade the Met on Tuesday night. That'll be the 10th, and on Thursday, the 12th, the Stars will host the Maple Leafs. Call 853-9300 and order your tickets for one or both games. Hartford and Toronto coming to the Met on the heels of the Vancouver Canucks, which will be there on Saturday.
The referee, Ron Wicks, now down at the penalty box area trying to sort these penalties out. We'll see if there's any additional penalties called to either player. Hunter's got to make a little bit of a equipment adjustment here. He had his sweater pulled off. Face-off will be about 10 feet inside the North Star blue line. Edmonton, which has been outshot by the North Stars 11-9, lead in the hockey game 3-1.
Well, Hunter's going to get a double minor, and Roberts will get just one, so the North Stars will have the man advantage in 2 minutes, assuming no further penalties.
And the order penalties,
players, as you probably heard, were picked up roughing penalties, and Hunter got an additional 2 minutes for high sticking. Time once again, 17:39 of the first period.
I'll remind you that primetime news is upcoming during our first intermission. And then during intermission number 2, Tom Reed will be talking with the North Stars' Tom McCarthy. Brad Maxwell in his own zone, out to center, ahead now for Marouk for Cicerelli. Cicerelli cutting in against Coffey. Fuhr makes the save, he score! The puck came loose and was knocked in the net, and the North Stars are on the scoreboard.
Well, that's the second effort once again, Bob. Cicerelli got the puck, and he's had trouble scoring. Other than the last 2 games, he's starting to get it going again, but he comes in as backhand. He faces it right there of 1 shot, 2 shot, and finally he stays right in the top. He doesn't turn away from the puck, and so often you'll see guys, they'll relax once the goaltender gets the puck, and they'll relax a little bit and not take that second effort. But right there, Dino Cicerelli does so, and he's rewarded with a goal, and the North Stars now behind by 1 goal. Edmonton leading 3-2.
So Dino Cicerelli makes it a 3-2 game now in favor of the Oilers, who move back across the line. Hartsburg for the North Stars. Dropping it back now for Brad Maxwell. 1:45 to play first period. Wayne Gretzky. Gretzky cutting in across for Curry. Scored! Isn't he something?
He most certainly is. He's had a few words with Brad Maxwell after that goal. Maxwell gave him a little bit of a shot. Watch right here. Maxwell gets the puck stripped right there by the great one, Gretzky, who goes in. Watch this pass. He can shoot, but he puts a puck right over the stick of Captain Craig Hartsburg, and Edmonton takes a 2-goal lead once again, leading 4-2. The time of the goal is 18:20.
So it is 4-2 in favor of Edmonton. It's Gretzky putting on a show. Curry's getting the goal, but it's Gretzky that has the show here. So far, Gretzky with his 44th goal and a couple of assists. And there have been some dandy plays. There's Gretzky again. This time Giles knocks him down. Up with it there is Keith Acton. 1 minute, 25 seconds to play in the period. Gretzky in the corner, trying to work it free for Coffey. Coffey losing the puck for Bellows, out to center for Acton. Acton across the line, off for Bellows down the right side, and Curry now for the Edmonton Oilers. Here they come with Coffey and Gretzky. Coffey, Gretzky, and Huddy across the line. Coffey back for Huddy. Huddy a shot, save and score! Wayne Gretzky. 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points, and Edmonton leads it 5-2.
Watch that shot just inside the pipe. Wayne Gretzky doing it again, picking up the goal number 45 of the year. Coffey and Giles interfering with both play a little bit. Gretzky coming in, being the trailer, puts it away, and the fans here are showing their appreciation for the great one, number 99, Wayne Gretzky.
Tommy was talking earlier about the pools they have. A lot of people back in the Twin Cities might be involved in a home run pool in baseball where you sit down with a group of friends and draft the various players from the teams. So we do the same in hockey as far as a goals race and as far as a points race. Here in Canada, you draft players from various National Hockey League teams, then you add up their goals and points and see who wins. Well, Gretzky is the one player in the league that they removed totally from the pool.
Now you can see why.
Yeah. They said whoever had Gretzky would automatically win the pool no matter who else they had. So Gretzky with 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. It's 5-2 Edmonton with 23 seconds remaining here in the first period. Vogelin now for the Oilers out to center, and Maxwell will chase it back inside the Minnesota zone.
You know, that 2 goals and 2 assists he's had in that period is a good season for some people.
It's amazing. Broken up by Vogelin back to center. Remember, stay tuned for primetime news coming up during our first intermission. As the siren sounds, it's 5-2 Edmonton, and tonight's broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum. Bob Kurtz and Tom Reed back with you here at the Northlands Coliseum. It's still 5-2 in favor of the Oilers over the North Stars after 1 period of play. We'll run through the scoring for you in the first period as we finally picked up some of the assists from the official score. Edmonton got started at 2:07. Anderson, his 25th goal of the year from Messier. That came at 2:07 of the period. Then Gretzky, his 44th of the season from Huddy at 7:41. And it's Marouk, his 10th of the year from Broughton and Cicerelli. That was a goal the North Stars recorded at 9:11. And then the scoring spurge started at 15:20. Curry from Gretzky and Huddy. Cicerelli from Hartsburg at 17:55. Curry from Gretzky at 18:20. And Gretzky from Huddy and Coffey at 18:58.
Well, Wayne Gretzky only had 2 shots in that period, but he made both of them count. Getting 2 goals on those 2 shots, you know, was certainly not a good period by any means for the Minnesota North Stars, who gave up 5 goals in that period. And you just wonder what's going on in the dressing room right now. There's not a lot that a coach can say. They just have allowed Edmonton to roam far too much in their own end, and Edmonton taking full advantage of the errors that Minnesota is making defensively. They're just not picking up the men. And now Gilles Meloche, it appears, is going in net for the Minnesota North Stars. He's first on the ice, so Donnie Beaupre has been yanked already. And I'm certain, Bob, that his feeling right now is certainly not one of good feelings. He's a little disgusted at himself and perhaps the team for not giving him any protection back there. But
and he had just about no protection.
Yeah, exactly. But also there a couple, that one goal in particular by Gretzky, he was able to see it but couldn't hang on to it. And
wasn't it New Year's Eve? They yanked Meloche in favor of Beaupre, so that's the way things are going. You know, we told you the Oilers are 25-0-0 when leading going into the third period. During the 82-83 season, the Oilers did not suffer a defeat when taking the lead into the third period. They were 37-0-5. So combined with this year's 25-0, the Oilers are 62-0-5, carrying the lead into the third period. So
they're going to get into a slump pretty soon, though, you can bet. Well, Gilles Meloche in 28 games has given up 99 goals for 3.82 average. 13 victories, 7 losses, and 4 ties on the year. In his last 17 games, he's had 10 victories and 4 losses and three ties. And you wonder what's going through his mind. I wonder how he felt when the coach told him, well, we're going to put you in goal right now. And you always wondered, oh, not now, please. However, he will get the call. We'll see if the North Stars can pick up the pace a little bit.
Don't forget, we have got Gopher basketball for you tomorrow. You can see 7:30 game time. The Golden Gophers, Jim Dutcher, opening the Big Ten campaign, and Jim Gilliland and myself will be at the Assembly Hall in Champaign, Illinois tomorrow night, 7:30 game time. Minnesota and the Fighting Illini of Illinois.
Well, we gave you that final score earlier. Buffalo defeating Winnipeg 9-4 in Buffalo, New York. Also a final in overtime. The New York Rangers have defeated the New Jersey Devils by a score of 4-3, and an overtime goal by Ruotsalainen. The only other score we have right now, still in the second period, Chicago 3 and Toronto 1.
You said the Stars let that man, Wayne Gretzky, roam just too free. How do you stick to him, Tom?
But, you know, I was talking with Bruce McGregor, the assistant general manager of the Edmonton Oilers, in between periods. He says he's phenomenal. He says you cannot check him. We've seen guys take runs at him. He's able to avoid, you know, the checks. If he does get hit, he gets straight back up. There's nothing you can do that's a system where you can stay close to him and check him to death. I mean, he still manages to get free. He knows where to go, which way to go, and he knows what to do with the puck once he gets it. And he's just a phenomenal hockey player, fun to watch. Not much fun to play against, I'm sure, in cases like this where he's picked up 2 goals and 2 assists in that first period.
Yet he had a situation like in the playoffs last year in the finals where the Islanders were able to shut him down.
Well, they were, and of course that wasn't an individual effort. That was a team effort, because if one fella failed to pick him up, there was already somebody there to help him out. You got to key in on Gretzky, there's no doubt about it, but this Edmonton Oilers club is a very good, sound hockey club. They've got some tremendous goal scorers, some tremendous defensive players as well. I know they give up a lot of goals.
Hunter in the penalty box for Edmonton. He still has 1:39 to serve in the second half of his double minor that he and Roberts got involved in. So the North Stars will start period number 2 with the manpower advantage and in need of a goal as they trail the Oilers by a score of 5-2. Brad Maxwell now getting the puck out to center ice. Here comes Marouk into the Edmonton zone, off for Mark Napier. Napier watched by Coffey. Drops it off now for Dennis Marouk. Marouk back for Napier again. Back for Marouk. Out in front, he scores! Cicerelli with a power play goal, and it's 5-3.
Well, Cicerelli picked up his second goal in this hockey game. Number 24. Watch the passing play. Napier looks. Marouk is right there. Now watch where Cicerelli is. Tark White right once again on that familiar side that we see him so often. He has a good angle right here. An easy goal for him. A nice passing play by Dennis Marouk and Mark Napier.
Cicerelli, his 24th of the year from Baruch and Napier at 25 seconds, and it's now a 5-3 game in favor of the Edmonton Oilers. Dino has connected twice tonight. Gretzky has connected twice for the Edmonton Oilers, and we have a barrage of goals here at the Northlands Coliseum. Randy Gregg now for Edmonton in his own zone, back out to center ice as the play will roll into the North Star end. Mandich will go back for the green and gold. Mandich handing it off now for Keith Acton. Acton watched by Anderson. Keeping it in now for Edmonton. Curry off for Anderson. Anderson tied up out in front by Acton, who came back. Back out in front again. And finally Bellows rolling it ahead for Acton, who I think took a bit of a dive. And Anderson's going to get the gate for Edmonton. Nice broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum.
5 rainbow trout worth a total of $1 million will be released in White Bear Lake as a part of Pepsi-Cola's Golden Rainbow January 15th ice fishing contest. If none of the rainbows are caught, first place will be a $70,000 super insulated house built by Solar Homes of America. Other prizes include a citation from Merritt Chevrolet, Crestliner boat, 60-horse Mariner motor, and Easy Loader trailer, a trip for 2 to Europe sponsored by Campus Travel, and cash prizes. Tickets are available at Twin Cities bait shops and must be purchased by January 12th.
Well, Anderson of Edmonton picks up a hooking penalty right here. You'll see Acton going for the puck, and Anderson gets a stick around the knee area and just pulls him down, so the North Stars once again in the power play. The thing you've got to key against, Bob, is that you've got to remember that Edmonton this year has scored 20 goals while they've been shorthanded in the 40 games. And in fact, the last 3 games they've won, the winning goal have all come on shorthanded goals. One by Wayne Gretzky and 2 by Pat Hughes.
They got 19 of the 20 against Winnipeg, don't they?
They have 8 of those goals against Winnipeg.
That doesn't make Mr. Ferguson very happy. Because Fergie not doing a whole lot of smiling this year.
Well, you
talk power play.
The North Stars bouncing right back here again. Now it's 5-4 for Edmonton. The North Stars coming out much quicker out of the gun in this first period, and that was actually deflected. You can see it by the Edmonton player to put it in behind his own goaltender. Watch right here. That was Kevin Lowe who touched it right there off his stick between the legs. A perfect deflection. And the time of that power play goal by Minnesota, I believe will be credit to Maxwell, will be 1:22 of the second period. Minnesota striking twice in this second period.
In the basketball game tonight or tomorrow night? Now they're giving the goal to Maxwell as play is back now into the Minnesota zone. McClellan keeping it in, back behind the goal. Trying a centering pass was Hunter. That was broken up by Hartsburg. Hunter again tied up by Hartsburg. And we'll get a face-off coming up on the right side as Gilles Melange. Willie Flint now moves in for the North Stars.
Well, that goal by Maxwell, his 12th of the season, and his dad, Ron Maxwell, flew in here from Victoria, BC to be here for tonight's hockey game. Will accompany the team to Calgary tomorrow before going back home. And for Maxwell, he has had, in his last 16, going into tonight's hockey game, he has picked up 15 points in his last 16 games on 6 goals and 9 assists, so he extends that record.
You're stopping it back there, getting somewhat of a Bronx cheer from the crowd here as the play goes up along the boards, and McClellan now comes out to center ice for the Oilers. His pass broken up by Giles. McClellan again for Edmonton, tried to roll it across for Fogland, saw Bellows, dead pass to Hughes, now picked up by Hunter, and fired wide as Gilles Melange. Back after it now goes Hartsburg. Up for Flint too far. Lowe keeps it in. Stopped by Giles out in front. And the North Stars come out of their own zone. Out to center ice comes Giles. Ahead too far for Bellows, and it's whistled down offside. 17:36 to go, second period. 5-4 Edmonton.
Well, it's a precarious position sometimes to play defense because you're in front of your own net so often, and pucks do deflect in off of you. Right there, you can see number 4, Lowe, was trying to defect that puck to keep it away from the North Stars, but he inadvertently put it in behind his own goaltender, and there's the fellow who took the shot, Brad Maxwell.
So it is 5-4 in favor of the Oilers. 5-2 Edmonton, if you just joined us. After the first period, the Stars have struck already twice here in the second. Minnesota is 3 for 3 on the power play tonight. As at center ice, Coffey for the Oilers, playing it in wide of the Stars' goal. Ashton bothered over there by Puzar. Swung along the glass now by Maruk. Keeping it in, Charlie Huddy. Back behind the goal for Gretzky. Gretzky now comes out in front. Gretzky rolls it across, but Bozar had been tied up by Maruk as Huddy will retrieve back inside the Edmonton zone. Off now for Paul Coffey. It's Coffey for the Edmonton Oilers, running into Curry, who finally dumps it into the North Star zone. Up along the boards, Gretzky battling Lindgren. Huddy fighting to keep it in. He does so. Now Maruk tries to work it out. Huddy again keeping it in for the Oilers, cutting in on the backhand. Stopped there by Lindgren. The North Stars getting it back out to center ice. Curry dumping off now for Coffey, watched by Cicerelli. We've played 3.5 minutes of the second period, and the score 5-4 Edmonton. This is Curry. Curry off for Huddy, whose shot was blocked by Lindgren. Centering pass by Buzar. Has Payne now for the North Stars. Fails to get it out. Gretzky keeps it in. Off for Curry. Scores!
Well, the hat trick in tonight's hockey game going to Curry, scoring goals number 36, 37, and 38 on the season. Look at the quick pass and the quick release by Curry, who's in the center of the ice. Gretzky once again picking up his 5th point of the night, his 3rd assist, going along with those 2 goals. And Edmonton once again with a 2-goal lead, leading 6-4. The time of the goal, 3:45.
Play going back now into the Edmonton zone. Don Jackson going back for the Oilers. Clearing along the board. Up on the left wing now for Messier. Messier working it out to center ice. Don Jackson dumping it into the North Star zone. Valash out for a skate, leaving it for Mandich. Up along the boards, keeping it in Jackson. Off now for Anderson. Anderson out in front. Broken up by the goaltender Malash. This is Neil Broughton. Broughton heading in for Willie Flett. Flett in center for the North Stars. Dumping into the Oilers zone. Stopped by Fuhrer. Off for Jackson. Now behind the goal, Flett giving Jackson a shove out in front. Payne scores! Payne for Broughton. And it's 6-5. We have had 11 goals in less than
20 minutes, or 25 minutes.
Incredible.
Well, Steve Payne, who did not see a lot of ice time against the Chicago Blackhawks, he was benched the first 2 periods, played the 3rd period. Now he comes out and he's playing much more regular. Right there, he takes that perfect pass from Neil Broughton, and he puts it in behind the goaltender, Grant Fuhrer, and the North Stars back within 1 goal again. The time is 4:25, excuse me, of the second period.
Back after it now goes Gordy Roberts, and finally we get a stoppage in play. Icing called against Edmonton. Tonight's broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum.
The 1984 all-new Ford Tempo.
But is it roomy?
Front-wheel drive for good winter traction.
It looks roomy.
Independent suspension for a smooth ride.
Quite roomy.
Aerodynamic design for a quiet ride.
And very roomy.
And good mileage.
Definitely roomy.
See the 1984 Tempo at your Northland Ford dealer today.
Well, we've only had 7 penalties in this hockey game, but we've had 11 goals, 6 by Edmonton and 5 by Minnesota.
Bet you the Gophers don't shoot this good tomorrow night.
They'd like to, I'm sure.
Tied up over there, McClellan by Broughton, trying to work it back. Now Broughton for the North Stars was spun around. On his way out, there's a chance for McClellan. Payne, or Blood comes back and dumps into the ice.
Well, Willie knew he had to grab on there. The fans not very happy, figuring there should have been a penalty. But he came back very quickly to play the defensive role there. And thwarted what proved to be, could have been a very dangerous shot right here. While he starts to come out with it, he tries to make the pass, but it's knocked down. And right here, you can see McClellan trying to get the shot away, but Willie grabs right on, pulls him down, and Malash just hangs on to the puck.
Face-off coming to the left side of Malash. 15:02 to go, second period. 6-5 Oilers. 5-2 Edmonton after the first period. We've already had 4 goals here in the second. Coffey going back for Edmonton, watched by McAdam. Buzar out to center ice, bumped by Giles, off now for Gretzky. Now Gretzky bothered there by Ferguson. Bozar getting it ahead for Curry. Back inside the North Star zone. Off now from McAdam. I don't think, though, the North Stars can afford to get in this type of game with Edmonton. And I think they're going to come out on top.
Well, the North Stars have a very good offensive team, but Edmonton is that much stronger.
Hartsburg at drive. That's knocked away by Fuhr. Penalty coming up against the North Stars as Fuhr goes over to the bench. Gretzky now getting it across for Curry. Curry controls. Back now for Huddy. Huddy a drive. Armed away by Malak. To the corner it goes. Gretzky goes after it. Gretzky gets it away from McAdam. He has been phenomenal tonight. Back for Gretzky again. Here's Gretzky. Moving in. Out in front. Broken up by Hartsburg. And play finally is whistled down by Ron Wicks.
And we're going to have a penalty. We're having a few exchanging of words down by the North Star end right now. But Brian Lawton is going to get a slashing penalty, I believe, as that's the indication of the call by the referee, Ron Wicks. There it is right there, and the stick goes in half. A good call by the referee as Huddy was trying to move that puck along. And Brian Lawton, the #1 draft choice in the National Hockey League this year, picks up the slashing penalty at 6:06 of the second period.
So 4 penalties now to the North Stars for 8 minutes. Edmonton also with 4 for 8.
A little bit of action by Edmonton right here. Gretzky once again controlling that puck, making the pass where he has to. Watch a little fake here of the shot. He gets a little fake and he jumps. He's got no glove on right now. His right hand, he didn't have his glove on, yet he continues to play.
He has put on an awesome display tonight. 13:54 to go second period. 6-5 in favor of the Oilers. Off the draw, controlled by Minnesota, and play will go back into the Edmonton zone. Back after it now, Paul Coffey, leading scorer among defensemen in the National Hockey League. Getting better all the time, out to center ice, broken up now by Roberts inside the North Star zone. Back to the Edmonton line, and Coffey controls. 1:38 to go in the penalty time to Brian Lawton. Coffey bothered by Bellows. Off now for Curry. Bellows keeping an eye on him is Curry, who already has the hat trick in the game. Dropping it off now to Pozar. Pozar to Gretzky. Gretzky with a nifty move. Nice pass to Pozar.
The guy's like a rubber man.
He's unbelievable. Played in offside. 13:05 remaining here, period number 2. It is 6-5 in favor of the Oilers. You know, it's funny, since the National Hockey League has gone to this, and you only see them sometimes once a year at the Met, I have never seen Gretzky like this.
No, neither have I. I've seen him get points before, but never to put on a display like he has here. Watch this pass. He makes a move here, cutting in on Bellows. Now watch this pass. In behind the back as the North Stars are moving towards him, he knows where his wingers are, and he puts it right on the stick. And he's the captain of the Edmonton Oilers. And you can see why he's on the ice probably 40 minutes in a hockey game, or very close to it. Kills penalties, plays the power play, plus playing his own regular shift.
McAdam. Off now for Gordy Roberts. Roberts clearing to the Edmonton zone. Gretzky getting it back out for Messier. Now Messier for Anderson. Anderson dumping it across the North Star line. After it goes Giles trying to clear. Coffey keeping it in. Coffey over to Messier. 50 seconds to go in the penalty. Back now for Gretzky. Gretzky back for Messier again. Over for Coffey. Coffey takes the shot. That deflects wide. On the rebound, Messier chasing it to the corner. Off with his Gretzky. Gretzky for Coffey. A driving score! Power play goal by Coffey, and it's 7-5 Edmonton.
And also Gretzky will pick up the assist once again, putting the perfect pass across to Paul Coffey, who unleashes one at 7:31 to give Edmonton a 7-5 lead, and right in the corner. And for Paul Coffey, that is goal number 20 of the season. Gretzky and Messier picking up the assist on the goal by Coffey at 7:31.
So 7-5 in favor of the Oilers as Gretzky just puts pass after pass after pass right through a maze of players. Hartsburg Clearing back to center for Cicerelli. Too far, rolling into the Edmonton zone. Gregg getting it back out now for Kenny Linsman. Now it's Linsman for the Oilers. Charging across his own line to Messier. Broken up there by Ashton, but it's a two-line pass. 12-13 to go second period. 7-5 for the Oilers.
Wayne Gretzky with 6 points on tonight's hockey game. 2 goals, 45 and 40, 44 and 45, and also 4 assists.
Don't forget, on Monday night, January 16th, the Los Angeles Kings make their first visit of the season. It'll be photo album night, co-sponsored by KMSP-TV and the Getty Oil Company. 10,000 fans will receive the full-color album featuring photos and biographical sketches on all the North Stars. For tickets to that game, call 853-9300 and charge it to your Visa, MasterCharge, or Software's charge. Photo night at the Met, the 16th, against the Los Angeles Kings. Out in front, Anderson, a shot. That was knocked down. Lindgren tries to fall on top of it. It's still loose. And finally, Cicerelli will start out for the North Stars. Cicerelli going across the line. Pulling up, down he goes. Picked up now by Linsman, who gets it back out to center ice. Lars Lindgren for Minnesota, back into the Edmonton zone. Grant Fuhr behind the net, leaving it there. As Gregg will start out for the Oilers. Out to center ice for Messier into the North Stars zone. And Steve Payne goes back for Minnesota. Payne, too far for Plett. Stopped by Lowe at center. Off now for Lindstrom. Back for Kevin Lowe as the Oilers regroup in their own end. We're approaching the 9-minute mark of the second period. It's been a wild hockey game. 7-5 for Edmonton. Maxwell going in against McClellan. Now behind the goal, Lindstrom. Off for McClellan. Back out at the side of the net with it out in front. Manning on it there was Conacher as Plett comes down the right wing. Plett dumping into the Edmonton zone. Back after it goes Fogelin. Back out as Roberts fights to keep it in. Now Kevin Lowe for the Oilers, back out to center ice. Kevin Lowe bothered there by Neil Broughton. Off now for Gordy Roberts. Brad Maxwell, having problems with Lindstrom. Lindstrom feeding down the left side. Takes a shot, it goes wide. Now McClellan ran into Ron Wicks. Back behind for Lindstrom. Tied up back there by Payne. And the North Stars will come out to center with Payne. Crisscrossing with Broughton. Clearing the play into the Edmonton zone. Conacher now will start back the other way for the Oilers. Getting it off now for Fogelin. Fogelin back for Lowe. Lowe for Gretzky. Keep your eyes open as Gretzky across the line handed this one right to George Ferguson. First bad
pass he made.
Morton getting it across now for Mandich. Ahead for McAdam. Broken up by Paul Coffey and back to center ice. Now the Stars with 9:45 to go second period. They trail by 2, 7-5. Out for Gretzky just off the edge of his stick. Back after it now goes Hartsburg. And icing is the call against Edmonton. 9:36 remaining. Second period. Tonight's broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum.
Budweiser salutes the coaches and trainers of the 1984 U.S. Olympic team.
That's the way, Mark. That's the move. How'd it go, big fella?
Just flat your back. Come on, bounce. Now stretch those arms out. Get down into it. Pull the arms in.
The gun goes off. I really want you to explode off the line. Arm swing, arm swing.
To the U.S. Olympic coaches and trainers, the team behind the team, this Bud's for you.
Reed and Bob Kurtz back here at the Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton, Alberta, with the North Stars behind Edmonton by a score of 7-5.
McAdam dumping it back into the Edmonton zone. Paul Coffey now for the Oilers. Bumped there by McAdam. Curry for the Oilers. Off for Paul Coffey. Coffey dumping it into the North Star zone. Balazs back behind the goal. Kurt Giles clearing along the boards for McAdam. Tied up over there by Coffey. Ferguson comes in. Ferguson now will start out. Curry tried to keep it in. Back to center again. As we approach the 11-minute mark, here in period number 2, 7-5 for the Edmonton Oilers. Lawton kicking it over there to Ferguson, who pops it off the boards. Back to center, and Paul Coffey controls for Edmonton. Off for Gretzky. Gretzky's pass goes for Pozar. Pozar cutting in with Gretzky. Back for Gretzky out in front. Losh does a belly flop as Ferguson comes up with the North Stars. Back out to center ice for Napier across the line. Here's a chance for Bellows. He scores! Ryan Bellows beats Fuhr
once again, Brady, the North Star within 1 goal, scoring at 11:27 of the second period. He just takes a good hard slap shot from his off wing right here. You see, he takes a pass from Napier. He moves across, he takes a look, and then he just unleashed one. I think he's trying to overpower the goaltender, Grant Fear, which he does right there. And for Brian Bellows, number 23, that's his 21st goal of the season.
So it's 7-6 now. 13 goals in the hockey game with 8.5 minutes still to go here, period number 2. Anderson for Edmonton, getting it ahead. Takes the hand pass from Greg and play is whistled down.
Ferguson and Napier will pick up the assist on that goal by Bellows at 11:27. Watch right here. He just puts all his effort in. You can see the weight being transferred from the right skate to the left skate there as he's facing the net. Got a lot of power in behind it and beats goaltender Grant Fear for Brian Bellows' 21st goal of the season.
The goal scorers tonight: Anderson, Gretzky, Maroon, Curry, Cicerelli, Curry, Gretzky, Cicerelli, Maxwell, Curry, Payne, Coffey, Bellows.
I hope everybody at home writing that down.
Unbelievable. There's a save by Fear as Lindgren let one go. 8:15 to go, second period. 7-6 Edmonton.
Well, going into tonight's game, Brian Bellows has been phenomenal for the North Stars. He's 16 points ahead of his pace from last year at the same point in the schedule. And he just continues to get better and better as you look at the shot from Larsson from the point. But finally, a goaltender was able to stop one of those shots in tonight's game. It looks like a little hard to hit sometimes here.
Bellows moving in for the face-off of the North Stars. Face-off, as you can see, to the right of Fear. Now Bellows has vacated, and Mark Napier moves in against Kenny Linsman. Off the face-off, Randy Gregg battling for it there in the corner, trying to tie things up, and does, and again will do it to the right side of Grant Fuhr.
Here we go, Linsman and Napier going at it. Linsman had a few words to say to Napier, and Napier wasted no time in going right at him. And now they're just kind of struggling along the boards here right now, holding on to each other. Not too many punches are being thrown.
Linsman lost one to Tommy Younghands that one here, didn't he?
Yes, he did. You can see who's ever going to get the first one. There it is. And then Napier gets a couple of good shots in. And we'll have fighting penalties against both these players. And now the linesmen down on top, and they'll break them up, and they will go to the penalty box. Time of the penalties will be 11:50 of the second period.
And we'll tell you that tonight's broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum.
Kitami, Japan, where Siberian winds drop temperatures to 80 below. Fort Collinson, Northwest Territory, winter 8 months long. Svalbard, Norway, it means land of the frozen shores. Wherever you find winters like these, you'll probably find a Corona portable kerosene heater. They're safety tested, economical, easy to use, and rugged enough to be backed by a 3-winter limited warranty. Corona, made for the world's worst winters, like yours.
At participating our own Coast to Coast and Lindale Garden Center.
Well, the combatants will serve their time now in the penalty box as you look at Mark Napier on the left-hand side and Kenny Linsman on the right-hand side of your screen, where they'll take a little bit of a rest. 11:50 at the time of the penalties, and both of those, I believe, will be assessed for fighting. First majors we've had in this hockey game. Minnesota has outshot Edmonton 20-15, but they're behind on the scoreboard 7-6.
Willie Platt now for the North Stars, battling Wayne Gretzky. Platt getting it out, back for Lindgren, and hops his stick. Anderson tries to go after it. Lindgren had a hold of him. And here come the Oilers with Gretzky taking the shot. Getting it off now for Messier. Messier back for Gretzky. Gretzky out in front. Oh! He missed an open net. He's human after all, huh? Bellows for the North Stars as Anderson. Oh, Anderson goes down. Platt now going at it with Randy Gregg. Here's Platt and Gregg. And Platt doing a pretty good job on Gregg. Gregg coming back, and Platt scores the fall.
Well, we've had lots of action here, and that's another example of the intensity of both these teams are putting into this game right now.
Willie Platt going at it with Randy Gregg shortly after Gretzky on the backhand missed the open net. And Platt, who played for the Calgary Flames, not real popular here in Edmonton as he skates off. Tonight's broadcast comes your way from the North
If you've got what it takes and really care, there's a special kind of life you'll want to share. Serving your country is a special call. It's good for you. It's good for all. Not all who try fit the bill. It calls for brains. It calls for skill in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. High-tech and the services go hand in hand. A whole new world. You're in demand in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. You'll move up. You'll feel proud. You'll stand out above the crowd in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. But most of all, you'll earn the respect of the people and country you're there to protect. In the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. It's a great place to start.
Well, it's Bob. Then a fight broke out between Minnesota's Willie Plett and Edmonton's Randy Gregg. And Randy Gregg is unusual in the fact that he is a medical doctor, and yet has decided to kind of hold that career a little bit as he pursues his hockey career, but he's got a lot going for him.
Carlos gets 2 for hooking. Plett gets 5 for fighting, and Gregg will get 5 for fighting. So it'll be Edmonton enjoying the manpower advantage. They've done pretty well playing at even strength. So another Edmonton power play. The North Stars have 3 power play goals thus far. Edmonton 1. 7-6 in favor of the Oilers. 7:15 to go. Anderson out in front. They score! Wayne Gretzky.
Is this fair? Obvious. So watch for number 99 on your screen once again, who's right there being tied up, but not enough as he puts it in. Another puck for the collection, a hat trick. And Wayne Gretzky now with 7 points out of a possible 8 that the Oilers have scored tonight.
I can't write this fast.
Neither can I.
Hartsburg now rolling it ahead for Cicerelli. Tied up over there by Lowe. Off for McClellan. Back to center ice. Giles now for the North Stars. Clearing it back in up along the boards. It is 8-6 Edmonton as we reach the 13-minute mark of the second period. Here's a 2-on-1. McClellan cutting in. McClellan out in front. He's stopped by Malage. Back out to center ice. Dino Cicerelli. Now Fogelin for Edmonton, sending it back in again, and Malage will stop it back behind the goal. Now Giles doing battle over there. And we'll get a face-off coming up to the right of Malage. 6:32 to go, second period. 8-6 Oilers.
Well, a tough night for the defenseman, Kurt Giles, and the rest of the North Stars. A lot of goals being scored by both teams. Here's our 2-on-1. McClellan looks right here, cuts in and makes a good move right here, but Malage is able to face the puck and get to it. And before the Edmonton Oilers can get to it, Brent Aston coming back in to help out his goaltender. Once again, you've got to see right there how Giles was in between the 2-on-1. He kind of had to give the shooter a little extra room there and allow Malage to favor him just a little bit more.
Kurt Giles now at center ice for the North Stars. The last Edmonton goal. Gretzky from Anderson Messier. Here's Broughton stop. Payne overskated the rebound. And here comes Gretzky again. Trying to work it off for Curry. Curry over there battling along with Giles. Giles up with the puck for Minnesota. Now Gretzky goes in after it, as does Curry. Off for Gretzky. Centering pass broken up. Back out in front again, though. Well, they know where the net is. They know where their teammates are, as here comes Broughton. Broughton working against Coffey. Back behind the goal. Broughton tried to center it. That was broken up by Coffey. Coffey out for Gretzky at center. Here he goes again. Back is Lindgren to drive. It's knocked away by the goaltender Malage. Now Steve Payne for the North Stars. Payne down the left wing. Back out to center ice. Stopped by Coffey. Coffey for Edmonton. Going. Well, he's going to go across the line. Now carries out to center. Dumping it into the North Stars zone. Stopped by Malage behind the net. Maxwell now for Minnesota. Stars coming out with Broughton hitting his skate, sending it down into the Edmonton zone. Back after it goes Kevin Lowe. Shots on goal, 21 for the North Stars, 18 for the Oilers. The Oilers have... Here comes Lindstrom cutting in. Lindstrom out in front. He scored! They have scored 9 goals on 19 shots.
14:59 Zuma takes a perfect pass right here. Cuts in between the defense. He's hooked momentarily by Maxwell, but he gets the shot away, beating goaltender Jill Malash. And Edmonton, who scored 5 goals in the first period against Donnie Beaupre, have now scored 4 goals against goaltender Jill Malash in the second period, and still 5:01 remaining. And for Willie Lindstrom, that is goal number 13 of the season.
Time of the goal, 14:59. It is 9-6 for the Edmonton Oilers. Here comes Acton, play whistle down offside. Tonight's broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum.
Buy the wrong personal computer and what happens? It just sits there and sits there and sits there. This won't happen at Computerland. We've put together a plan called The Works, a combination of expert advice, training, and support. With The Works, you get the most out of your computer or you get your money back. Guaranteed. Computerland. It's the difference between buying a computer and buying a computer you'll use.
Bob Kurtz and Tom Reed back here in Edmonton. 4:50 to go, second period, 9-6 in favor of the Edmonton Oilers. 15 goals so far in the game as we got a penalty coming up now to Edmonton. The North Stars already have picked up 3 power play goals, and they'll have an opportunity here to go after number 4. As we have had an offensive explosion here in the Northlands tonight, as Messier now will get the gates for Edmonton.
Pick it up right there. You can see Acton trying to get around Messier. Messier got the stick down in front of him and tripped him. And Messier has 4 assists in tonight's hockey game, as well as a performance that Wayne Gretzky has put on.
15-13, the time of the penalty, and the North Stars now will go on the power play. They have scored power play goals by Marouk, Cicerelli, and Maxwell thus far in the game. They face a 3-goal deficit right now with 4:45 remaining here in the second period. They going back into the Minnesota zone. Back after it goes Hartsburg. Shadowed back there by Dave Hunter. Coming out now for the North Stars, Roberts. Heading it up for Brian Bellows. Off for Dino Cicerelli. Now Cicerelli playing it for Roberts. Roberts over for Craig Hartsburg. Keep in mind, Edmonton has 20 shorthanded goals. We talked about that earlier. Leonard back down into the North Star end with 1:25 now to go in the penalty time to Messier. Coming out now, Captain Craig Hartsburg carrying out to center, pass for Cicerelli, and it's whistled down offside.
Well, we've got some winners in the Yamaha Tri-Moto giveaway contest. Our winners are Jane Barber of 760 Johnston Street in Anoka, Minnesota, and also to John Ryder at 8635 Bloomington Avenue South in Bloomington, Minnesota. And our congratulations go to those 2 winners in the Yamaha Tri-Moto giveaway contest.
Played back now in. Behind Malash as Roberts goes back. 3 minutes, 55 seconds remain. Period number 2, 9-6 Oilers. 1:04 left in the penalty time to Messier. Gordy Roberts back at his own blue line. A wild and woolly one here in Edmonton tonight. Hartsburg now getting it back for Gordy Roberts. Roberts carrying out to center, moving across the line, back for Cicerelli. Not a good pass. Cicerelli pumped up along the boards. Play goes to the corner. Dennis Marouk now for the North Stars, trying to work it free. Does for Cicerelli. Cicerelli back for Gordy Roberts. Roberts moving it back for Cicerelli. 34 seconds to go in the penalty time. Brian Bellows out in front of Marouk was stopped by Fuhr. Or hit the goalpost.
Well, he hit something on the far side there. Fuhr was trying to slide across, and Marouk got good wood on it, but couldn't put it in behind him as it came out the other side.
Out to center ice now, Brian Bellows for the North Star. Bellows carrying across the line, moving it over to Marouk. Marouk drops it back for Hartsburg. Hartsburg back in front. And that failed to click. Now Gordy Roberts lines it up. Roberts a drive and a save by Fuhr. Roberts again for the North Star. Here's a breakaway for Gretzky. Gretzky all alone goes in and he fires wide.
He hit the goalpost. It appeared on as he took the shot.
Here he is again out in front. All alone. He scores.
Chance to put it in as he scores his 4th goal on the night, his 47th goal of the nervousness on the part of the Edmonton Oilers as he picks up his 4th goal and 8th point in this hockey game.
What a show the Oilers have put on tonight. 4 goals by Gretzky. As Tommy mentioned, it's 10-6. It was almost 9-7 as Baruch hit a goal post at the other end. Messier picks up an assist on the goal by Gretzky.
And that's his 5th point of the night. And Jari Kurri picks up an assist. And for Kurri, that's his 4th point on tonight with 3 goals and 1 assist.
Off the face-off, back now for Lindgren. He takes a shot. Fuhr makes the save. Dropping it off now for Fogland. Fogland trying to move it along the boards. Stopped there by Neil Broughton. McClellan moves in. 2 minutes, 12 seconds to play in the period. Flett takes McClellan down, and Flett's going to get the gate for the North Stars. Here goes Lowe. Lowe carrying out to center. Moving it down the left side. Back now for Lowe. Lowe tried to get it out in front. Broke it up by Lindgren, and we got a penalty coming up here against Willie Flett.
18:02 will be the time of the penalty to Flett. And for Minnesota, that's your 8th penalty of the hockey game for 22 minutes. Wait for the official call. Probably a holding penalty, I would imagine, by the replay that you just saw. And that was the correct call. It is a holding call as Glenn Sather, the coach and general manager of the North Stars, contemplate his next move, and look who's back on the ice. Number 99.
I think his troops play a little better than Slats play, huh?
A lot better.
Off the face-off, here they come again. Coffey a drive. That's knocked away by Malage. As Edmonton now with the extra man. Done well enough short-handed and even strength. Messier dropping it back for Coffey. Coffey moving it over. There's a drive by Huddy. Puck is loose out in front. Now Messier. Messier for the Oilers. 1:38 to go in the period. Off for Huddy. Off for Coffey. Now Coffey back for Charlie Huddy. Huddy for Gretzky. Let's watch. Moving it across for Messier. This is Anderson. Anderson back behind the goal. Over now for Gretzky. Gretzky a drive. That goes wide. He missed all the way out on the carry back inside the Edmonton zone.
You know, you really have to watch Gretzky to appreciate him in full view of what's happening on the ice. As the puck is moving around, he may not be involved in the actual handling of the puck, but he's moving himself into position all the time. Where the puck does come to him, he's got a good opportunity to get a shot or to make a key play in the game.
It's amazing what he does once he has it, too. His shot's not that hard. Doesn't have to be. Everything he does is so accurate. The passes are perfect. They almost always get through. The shot is exactly where it's supposed to be. If it's supposed to be along the ice on the stick side, it's along the ice on the stick side.
Now look at the general manager of the North Stars, Lou Nanne. Seems to be a little quiet up there, high above the ice level here.
1 minute to play now to go in period number 2. This is Lindstrom. Watched there by Acton. Back now for Gretzky. Gretzky takes the shot. Puck is loose out in front. Malas grabs it and holds on, and we'll have a faceoff. As Bellows figured the best way to stop Gretzky is to wrap a pair of arms around him.
That's one way to... Well, I don't know if that is a way to stop him or not. Right on. You notice his shots are always on the target. Very seldom does he shoot wide. Malas losing his stick in that little pile up there, but able to grab it on. You can just, you know, it's got to be awful for a goaltender to be in a position like this. And, you know, Donnie Beaupre was pulled in the first period after giving up 5 goals, but the Edmonton Oilers have come right back here in the second period and scored another 5 goals to lead 10-6. The North Stars fighting back in the second period after being behind 5-2. Got 2 quick goals to make it 5-4. It's been a seesaw battle, but the last 3 goals have all been Edmonton's.
Now, Stars have made a great comeback a couple of times. They were down 5-2, climbed their way back to within 7-6, then Edmonton explodes again. Here's Messier. Messier off for Coffey, 30 seconds to play in the period. Lindstrom Back now for Coffey. 25 seconds to go. Period number 2. Lindstrom coming across the line. Ridden out, up with the puck, Messier, 17 seconds, Messier out in front. Coffey keeping it in for the Oilers. Coffey across for Lindstrom, over for Gretzky, 9 seconds to play in the period. To go. Here comes Gretzky out in front. The green light goes on. And the period comes to an end. As all Meloche could do was sit there and wait for Gretzky to make his move. His time finally runs out. That is the end of the second period of play. The score, the Oilers 10, the North Stars 6. Tonight's broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum.
Tom Reed and Bob Kurtz back here at the Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton, Alberta, and we have had a lot of goals scored in tonight's hockey game. The Edmonton Oilers leading the Minnesota North Stars by a margin of 10-6, and it was a total of 24 shots taken by both teams now, 12 in the first period by each team, and they equaled that in the second period, 12 more shots by each team, but Edmonton scoring 5 goals in the first period against Donnie. And we have had a lot of goals scored in tonight's hockey game. The Edmonton Oilers leading the Minnesota North Stars by a margin of 10-6, and it was a total of 24 shots taken by both teams now, 12 in the first period by each team, and they equaled that in the second period, 12 more shots by each team, but Edmonton scoring 5 goals in the first period against Donnie Beaupre. The North Stars responding with 2 goals against Grand Fear in the second period. Gilles Meloche came in net for Minnesota. He was also peppered with 5 goals in the 12 shots, but the North Stars responded with 4 goals against Grand Fear, and Wayne Gretzky, what a show he has put on here tonight. 4 goals and 4 assists, and you can see why he's the leading scorer in the National Hockey League. He now has a total of 125 points in the 40 games he's played, over 3 points a game. Gilles Meloche once again getting the starting call in this third period as he did in the second period, and he's got to feel a little bit frustrated, as I'm sure his teammates are as well, not getting a lot of protection, but it just seems right now, Bob, that no matter what's being shot, it's going in the net.
I always get the idea that he might have lost a coin flip with Beaupre to see who's going to play the third period. They have had almost no protection at all from Wayne Gretzky. You see there, they have had just phenomenal opportunities. We're going through the books trying to figure out what was the most goals ever scored in the National Hockey League. 2 teams, 1 game. We'll pass a lot of the stuff along to you. The North Stars have they were involved in a 10-9 game with Vancouver, the second game of the year. They were involved in an 11-2 loss to Quebec up in Quebec City.
Well, you talk about the most goals ever scored. It was back in January the 10th, 1920. 21 goals were scored when the Montreal Canadiens defeated the Toronto St. Patrick's by a score of 14-7. And we're not too far away from that right now. With the 16 goals we've had scored, we're averaging 8 goals a period, so it's a possibility that these 2 teams could break that record that was established back in 1920.
Well, years ago, the North Stars beat Winnipeg 15-2.
Maybe it's going to be one of those games where last shot wins, the way things are going.
Now here we go, period number 3. It is 10-6 in favor of Edmonton. Giles spinning in his own zone, working the puck back out to center ice. Stars twice have come back from big deficits here as Fuhrer knocks it away. 5-2 at one time. Stars clawed their way back to 7-6. Edmonton right now with a 4-goal margin, 10-6. Play at center ice. Flood has returned. McClellan battling there with Giles. Played back to the Edmonton line. Now Kevin Lowe for the Oilers. Getting it ahead for Dave Hunter. Taken away is Cicerelli. He was knocked flying at the line. And McClellan getting it across. And Fogelin getting it out to center. Pat Hughes working it over now to McClellan. McClellan getting it across the line. And play whistle down offside. Now we got Ashton, Cicerelli, Lowe, and McClellan there. I'm just going to mention the fact that Mark Napier and Pat Hughes are brother-in-laws, as Napier married Pat Hughes' sister.
Well, Cicerelli hit McClellan there a little bit, and I think 2 of the players didn't think that was right. The whistle had already gone, but he was in the motion already to hit him. We'll try and pick it up once again right along the boards there. There's a little bit of a butt end up here coming from McClellan as well. To Cicerelli, but no further altercations have taken place.
So we have 19 minutes and 18 seconds to go. Third period, 6 for the North Stars, but 10 up on the board for the Edmonton Oilers. They have George Ferguson, the North Stars do at center. Al McAdam on the right side. And Brian Lawton on the left as off the faceoff. Edmonton sends the puck into the North Star zone. Lawton battling over there with Curry on the far side. Hartsburg is there for Minnesota. And Hartsburg will start out George Ferguson. Ferguson coming out to center ice, rolling it across the line. Charlie Huddy breaks it up, gets it over for Paul Coffey. Coffey for the Oilers, out to center ice. Lawton now controls for the North Stars, off for the Ohio State grad, Big Dan Mandich. Back out to center ice, Huddy dropping it deeper into the Edmonton zone. Paul Coffey out for Wayne Gretzky at center. Now Gretzky, who has put on quite a show, off for Coffey across the line. Lawton knocking it back out to center. Lawton going down the left side. Bumped there by Huddy as play goes back into the North Star zone. We've gone a minute and a half here in the third period with no goals. As Ferguson now carries out to center. Ferguson for the North Stars. He hit Huddy with that. Huddy poking it ahead now for Curry. Curry's pass was picked off by Gordy Roberts. Gordy Roberts was shadowed over there by Hozar, getting it off for Mandich. Mandich out for center and back into the Edmonton zone.
I think Mandich was just trying to make a clearing attempt there, getting the puck down the ice. He had no one to give it to.
North Stars come up with the puck in the Edmonton zone. We're 2 minutes into the third period, 10-6 in favor of the Edmonton Oilers. Lisbon rolling the puck back to center. Broken up there by Gordy Roberts. Roberts off for Maxwell. Maxwell getting it back for Keith Acton. Acton carrying into the zone. Acton marking right, he scores! Keith Acton lets a wrist shot go from the slot. And the North Stars pick up the first goal here in the third period. It comes at 2:20, and it makes it a 10-7 game.
Well, he made a good move here as he cut back to his left after being hooked there a little bit by Kenny Lisbon. Unleashes a good wrist shot, and he just catches the inside the pipe here. And you can see the goaltender, Grant Fuhr, very slow to move on that particular shot. But Keith Acton of the North Stars has scored his 11th goal of the season, his eighth goal since joining the North Stars. And the time of the goal, as Bob mentioned, 2:20.
During the regular season, here's a chance for the Stars again out in front. As Edmonton will come out to center ice, this is Messier. Messier rolling it across the North Star line. Brian Bellows goes back for Minnesota. And play finally is whistled down. We got a penalty being called here by Ron Wicks. Tonight's broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum.
This bud's for everyone who takes the power and sends it down the line.
This bud's for you. For all you do, the king of beers is coming through.
Yeah, just for you. That distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser.
For all you do, this bud's for you.
Well, just 24 seconds after Keith Acton has scored for the North Stars, Edmonton picks up a holding penalty going against Anderson at 2:44, and he'll get a little bit of a rest in that penalty box. The North Stars have scored the only goal in this period, trying to make a comeback here, behind 4 goals going into the period, but they've narrowed that gap to 3 goals on the goal by Acton at 2:20, his 11th of the season.
Well, Boston had that phenomenal edge in the after 2 periods when they took the lead into the third. They hadn't lost all year. Stars came up with 4 goals in the Boston Garden back in late December to beat the Bruins by a score of 4-2. Edmonton hasn't lost a game in the third period in the last 2 years. They're 62-0-5 when they take a lead into the third period. Matt Hughes now at center ice for the Oilers, dumping it into the North Star zone. Stars with 3 power play goals thus far tonight. 1:23 now to go with the penalty time to Anderson. Maxwell heading it up for Dennis Marouk. Marouk carrying across the line. Marouk moves it down the left side for Cicerelli. Battling Fogelin. Now Kevin Lowe for the Oilers. Getting it ahead. And Edmonton pops it out to center ice. And back after it now goes Maxwell. With 1:05 to go in the penalty time to Anderson. 10-7 to score in favor of the Oilers. Marouk at center now, moving across the line. Marouk cutting in, knocked off his stick by Curry. Willie Plett will keep it in for the North Stars. Plett for Hartsburg, he scores! A power play goal as Hartsburg cranks it in. And that makes it 10-8. 3:50 the North Stars have picked up their 4th power play goal of the night.
Well, the North Star record as far as goals by two teams in one hockey game was set earlier in this year. As you look at the goal by Craig Hartsburg, once again, right in the far corner. A nice pass by Willie Platt across here. Hartsburg, who's on the fly and lets the shot go right in the bottom corner. The North Stars have closed the margin to within 2 goals now.
So it's a 10-8 hockey game, and here come the Oilers with Curry. Curry too far for Gretzky, broken up by McAdam, and sent back into the Edmonton zone. Paul Coffey for the Oilers. That was tipped there by Curry all the way back down into the North Star zone. After it goes Mandage, and icing is the call against the Edmonton Oilers. So we have 15 minutes and 40 seconds left to go here in the game, 10-8 in favor of the Oilers.
Well, I had mentioned to you that, started to mention that the most goals scored by two teams in a North Star game was 19 goals, which was set back on October 7th of 1983 when Vancouver beat the North Stars by a margin of 10-9. Lou Nanny and also George Gunn, one of the owners of the North Stars, were witnessing this goal-scoring exhibition that we're seeing between these two hockey clubs.
Here comes Gretzky. Gretzky works against Mandage. Gretzky cutting in, drops it back. There's a shot knocked away by Melange as Pozar was tied up by McAdam out in front. Here comes Ferguson. Ferguson for the North Stars going across the line with McAdam. Ferguson trying to move in. A shot is saved by Fuhrer. And Pozar getting it ahead now for Grain Gretzky. Gretzky moving it for Coffey. Play going into the North Star zone. We're approaching the 5-minute mark here of the 3rd period. And it's a 10-8 game in favor of Edmonton. As Lawton sends it all the way down, too far for Broughton. And back after it now for the Oilers goes Charlie Huddy. And icing is the call against Minnesota. 14:54 to go. 10-8 Edmonton.
Trip for students to Las Vegas.
And number 22, Charlie Huddy, out of Oshawa, Ontario, was signed as a free agent by Edmonton in 1979. He won the Emery Edge Award last year as the best plus in the National Hockey League. Here's that. You can see Ferguson right here put himself at a bad angle. He moved himself over to the side too much. He didn't have much to shoot at. And goaltender Grant Fuhrer able to make the save on that shot.
Chicago a winner tonight. They beat Toronto by a score of 5-1. As Don Jackson dumps the puck into the North Star zone. Stopped by Melange, picked up by Maxwell. Off now for Neil Broughton. Back now for Lindgren. Out on the left wing for Payne. Payne, a long pass for Broughton, too far. Fuhrer comes out of the goal, moves it back to the corner. At Conacher, takes the bump there from Payne. Up with the puck is Broughton. He's dangerous. Broughton back for Maxwell. Maxwell fakes the shot, marches towards the goal, takes the shot finally, and it goes wide. Now Lindgren, off for Willie Platt. Platt for Payne. Payne back for Maxwell. Maxwell takes the shot, saved by Fuhrer, holds on. And the face-off in the Edmonton zone with 14:03 to play.
Well, that initial shot by Maxwell going wide was a good shot because he had Broughton breaking in on the side. A little bit of action. We'll pick it up once again. Here's the second shot coming right here, right on the goaltender. But we've got all the players mingled around each other once again. Everyone doing a lot of talking. And I think that's as far as it goes. Linsman having a few words with Willie Platt. And no further action between these teams.
Tonight's broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum.
There's a new name in gasoline coming to town. Not just any gasoline, a great one, Getty. With 3 grades of gasoline, each one blended for smooth performance mile after mile. That's why so many people will be taking their gas caps off to Getty. Pull into the new gas station in town and take your cap off to Getty.
Bob and I would also like to wish a speedy recovery to Sue Thomas, the secretary of General Manager Lou Nanny of the North Stars, after suffering a snowmobile accident. Sue, we hope to see you up and back in the Met Center very soon.
Face-off coming outside the Edmonton line. Controlled now by Lowe, getting it over to Foglin. Foglin back out to center ice. It's been good news for Darryl Sutter to hear his teammates won tonight, 5-1. Here come the Oilers again with Anderson, broken up by Giles. Off now for Bellows. Stopped by Lowe at the line, off for Messier. Messier coming back across the line, bumped there by Hartsburg, bumped again by Bellows, watched by Atkins. What are the Stars doing differently here in the third period?
Well, they seem to be moving a little bit quicker right now, and they know they have to keep on going. They've got a game tomorrow night. They've got to get some momentum going to get some, you know, to get back into this hockey game in particular, but also that can carry through into tomorrow's game as well.
Acton getting it off behind the goal for Napier. Bellows had it go right through his legs, and here comes Messier. 3-on-2 with Anderson and Linsman across the line. Anderson moving it over for Linsman. Linsman clearing it along the boards, and Bellows now for the North Stars. Coming out down the left wing, out to center ice, works against Huddy across the line. Coffey now, as we reach the 7-minute mark of the final period. It is 10-8 Edmonton. Here comes Anderson, forced wide of the goal, back out for Messier. Here's a chance for Coffey. Score!
Well, it's 7-10. Paul Coffey picks up another goal for Edmonton. Anderson carries the puck, and this, he watches it come right back through off of the stick of Jill Moss. He makes a save on Messier, and Coffey goes in, puts it up high over the goaltender. Edmonton in the lead, 11-8.
There's a chance now for McAdam, is coming out of the goal as Fuhr to clear it out to center. Gordy Roberts now for the North Stars, getting it over for Dan Mandich. Now Mandich heading it out to center ice. Picked up there by the Oilers as Bozar working it over for Charlie Huddy, right back into the North Star zone. Up along the boards, Al McAdam. McAdam bothered by Bozar. There's rink wide now for Brian Lawton. Lawton back for Gordy Roberts. Roberts carries out to center. Into the Edmonton zone it goes. Back behind the goal is Paul Coffey, and play whistled down. And stopped with 12-12 to go. 11-8 to score in favor of the Edmonton Oilers. Lightning Fast Pro Hockey can provide great entertainment for a group of friends or business associates, and groups of 25 or more get a $1 discount on select North Star games. So call 853-9340 for further information. It is never too early to organize a group to see the Stars, but if you wait too long, it might just be too late. So get out and see the North Stars with your group at the Met this winter.
Well, in just 48 minutes of hockey, we've had 19 goals scored. That last goal by Coffey, his second of the night, his 21st of the season.
Coffey shot this time, deflects into the crowd.
And the assist going to Anderson and also to Messier, who has now registered his 6th assist in tonight's hockey game.
Stars have been giving up a lot more goals this year than they have last year. Tonight obviously hasn't helped. The 11 they gave up to Quebec, the 10 they gave up to Vancouver. A lot more goals scored now as Coffey takes a shot that's armed away by Malash. Here's Gretzky out in front. Big save on Bozar. Bozar all alone out in front, and they stopped that as Malash has been very busy.
Maxwell and Bozar are going to go for penalties, taking a little shot at each other in front of that net. And the referee, Ron Wicks, who's in his 20th year in the National Hockey League, is signaling both players to the penalty box. The time will be 8:04 of the third period.
Nice broadcast comes your way from Edmonton.
At the stroke of midnight on January 1st, the new year was born, and so was the new Northwestern Bell. We're the same company in all the right ways, and we have nearly 20,000 employees already to go on serving you. At the same time, we're looking forward to the new opportunities we now have to meet all your telecommunications needs. The new Northwestern Bell. We're making our New Year's evolution to serve you better than ever before.
Well, both Maxwell and Bozar have picked up 2 minutes each for slashing at 8:04 of period number 3, with Edmonton leading Minnesota 11-8.
Willie Flint now off the face-off for the North Stars. Neil Broughton controls at center. Broughton goes across the line, bothered there. Flint picks up the loose puck, plays it into the corner. Paul Coffey and Neil Broughton. Now Charlie Huddy heading it up for Lindstrom. Huddy and Lindstrom collide in their own zone, but Huddy now getting it back out to center where Giles for Minnesota. This is Craig Hartsburg. Hartsburg ahead now for Neil Broughton. Broughton for the North Stars. Tries Flint on the left wing. Flint goes against Huddy, who skates out Big Willie. Now not exactly the crowd favorite. But Flint manages to work it out in front, and here goes Gretzky. Gretzky against Giles. Gretzky carrying across the line, off now for Lindstrom, and Flint comes back to play it for Minnesota. 1:10 to go in Maxwell and Bozar's coincidental minors. As Gretzky now back behind the goal. Gretzky back out in front. Drake takes a shot. That's kicked away. Rotten is spun around by Lindstrom. Lindstrom will get the game. And so the North Stars, who have 4 power plays, will have a chance coming up for number 5. As tonight's broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum.
There's a time in life for the young to say, I want something else, a different way. The town's the same, the people too. School is over, needs something to do. The services have it, it'll really show. You'll see new places, you'll really grow in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. Challenge, adventure, excitement too, a time to enjoy and see something new. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. You'll work hard, feel really free, serving your country for all to see in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. Be part of a team, be friends forever. A part of the services you won't forget ever. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. It's a great place to start.
Well, Edmonton is now taking the edge on penalties right here as you look at him hooking Neil Broughton. That's the 10th penalty of this hockey game to Edmonton for 26 minutes. Hooking to Lindstrom at 9:10. The North Stars, meanwhile, have had 9 penalties for 24 minutes.
50 seconds still to go in the penalties to Bozar and Maxwell. The North Stars with the man advantage. They have been dynamite on the power play tonight. They trail right now 11-8. As Hartsburg will have to chase it back in his own zone. 10.5 minutes now to go in the game. Frank Hartsburg goes back for the North Stars. Hartsburg starting out. His pass goes for Gordy Roberts. Roberts carrying to center. Roberts going across the line. Moving it over now for Captain Craig Hartsburg, back behind the goal. Up with it there for the Oilers. Don Jackson, who finds an opening and sends it down into the North Star zone.
Talking to the Public Relations Director of Edmonton, Bill Coelho, he told us that Don Jackson's wife, Nancy, is involved in martial arts and was kicking a board with her foot and broke her foot in a few places.
Shouldn't be kicking those boards. Here goes Hartsburg going across the line. Off now for Brian Bellows. Bellows. See Acton out in front. Now gets the puck over to Acton. Rides back for Bellows. That's broken up by McClellan and sent all the way down the ice. 45 seconds to go in the penalty time. The
North Stars have to get some shots on this power play. They're behind by 3 goals. They've got just a little over 9 minutes remaining, and on the power play right now, they've got to narrow that gap if they can right now.
Here goes Acton across the line inside the Edmonton zone. Pushing it over now for Napier. Back on the point for Broughton. Back over for Acton. Acton for Lindgren. Lindgren moving it back over now. This is Dino Ciccarelli. Ciccarelli for the North Stars. 12 seconds to go in the penalty time. Acton back out for Lindgren. Keeping it in now Broughton. Just 5 seconds to go in the power play. Off for Dino Ciccarelli. Back for Broughton. Back for Ciccarelli. Edmonton in full strength. Ciccarelli is shot. Lindgren moving it out in front. Drive is saved by Fuhr. Puck is still loose. And Fuhr somehow keeps it out as we got some shoving going on to the side of the goal. Well, don't forget, coming up after tonight's North Star Oilers game, stay tuned for the latest edition of INN News, followed by the fun of Thick of the Night, and then the Ethiopia special on Channel 9.
This Friday at noon, the Oilers at Canada Safeway will officially bring to
Our congratulations also go to Dennis and Margie Bracken. Dennis is the beat writer for the Minneapolis Star and Tribune, covering the North Star on the birth of their son, Ryan Patrick. Bracken, who was born here recently.
Good Irish name.
You think so?
Ryan Patrick. Ryan Patrick Bracken. Off the face-off. Here's a break now for the Oilers. Here goes Anderson. Anderson over for Messier, and it's ruled offside.
Well, Payne had inadvertently passed that puck right over to Anderson. And as they broke down, Messier and Anderson, an offside was called, and Bandage threw his man down quite heavily. Of course, that brought all the players into the center ring for some verbal exchanges.
8 minutes and 33 seconds left. 11-8 for the Edmonton Oilers.
Los Angeles leading Vancouver at LA by a score of 2-1. That's in the second period.
Played at LA last night, too. LA's got a few of those deals going this year where they play back-to-back home games.
Cut down on some of those expenses.
Don Jackson picked there by Broughton. In turn, Linsman comes up with it now for the Oilers. Kenny Linsman clearing it across the line. Dump was Anderson. Payne goes back. No call from Ron Wicks, and Ron Wicks will not run for mayor right now of Edmonton as Don Jackson goes back inside the Oilers zone. What fell down? That drew a roar of approval. Broughton brings it in offside. 8:07 to play. 11 for the Oilers and 8 for the North Stars.
Well, Willie Plett is not liked here, and he and Dave Semenko has been in some pretty good battles. Semenko is out with a knee injury, as Bob mentioned. Also, Lumley is also out since December the 13th and will miss a couple more weeks. Back in the Twin Cities is Ronnie Freese, still recovering from the back surgery. Jordy Douglas back in the cities, and Tom McCarthy is here in Edmonton and is supposedly ready to play, but Coach Bill Mahoney elected not to use him in tonight's hockey game.
Face-off coming outside the Oiler line. 19 goals, too shy of the National Hockey League record of 21 goals in a single contest. It has been a wild one. And that 21 was set to what, 1920?
1920.
You're talking 63 years ago.
Year you were born.
You played in that thing, didn't you? Anderson now moves in. Were you a -4?
No, I was on the plus side. I was on the team with 21 or with the 14 goals.
Now Hartsburg clearing it along the boards. There's a shot from the point, knocked away by Meloche. Kenny Linsman works it back in front. Now Messier for the Oilers, watched by Brian Fellows. Back for Randy Gregg, back for Messier. Notice we haven't seen Gretzky a whole lot here in the third period. Back out in front, and breaking that up is Brian Fellows. Fellows carrying out down the right wing. Going across the line, stripping the puck there by Anderson. Here's Gretzky. Stopped by Gilles Meloche. Meloche moving it over to the side. Up with it now, Anderson. Anderson with 7:07 to play. Off for Gretzky. Gretzky for Anderson. Cutting in. Oh, he hit the goalpost.
Well, we haven't seen too much of him, but once again he makes the play. And Edmonton coming very, very close once again.
Don't forget basketball tomorrow night. Jim Gilman and I will be at Champaign, Illinois. 7:30 tip-off. The Gophers against the Fighting Illini of Illinois. Jim Dutcher has club had 8-1 preseason record. Tip-off Big Ten play tomorrow night. Here comes Al McAdam now for the North Stars. Bothered there by Coffey. Maxwell gives the puck back to Coffey inside the Oilers zone. Back into the North Star end of things with 6 minutes 40 seconds to play. Gilles Meloche leaving it for Lars Lindgren back behind the goal. Don't forget our next telecast comes up from Detroit on Friday night, January the 20th. The Stars and the vastly improved Detroit Red Wings from the Joe Louis Arena. Maxwell battling Gretzky. Maxwell back behind the goal. Maxwell coming out, back out to center ice. Here comes McAdam now. McAdam against Coffey. Back for Ferguson. Ferguson right in. And Fuhr slid out to make the save. Back behind the goal. He tried to work it in from behind the net. And making the save there was the defenseman Coffey on Brian Lutton. Kevin Lowe handing it over for Wayne Gretzky. Gretzky for the Oilers. Gretzky. Bothered finally by Maxwell, who had to hook him a bit. Now Gretzky off. A drive there by Bozar. There's another save by Meloche. And on the rebound, he stops Gretzky.
Well, a second effort by Gretzky almost puts it away again.
Tonight's broadcast comes your way from Edmonton, Alberta.
Look at the two general managers of the clubs, Lou Nanne on the left, Glenn Sather, who is also the coach, on the right.
Off the face-off, controlled by the Oilers. Vogelin now. A shot hit McClellan, back behind the goal, cleared up along the boards. Pat Hughes, broken up by Maruk. Maruk off for Mandich. Mandich ahead now for Cicerelli. Cicerelli carrying across the Edmonton line, dropping it back for Ashton, who was bumped there by Hunter. And the Oilers now with Pat Hughes. Out in center, too far for McClellan. Chased down by Gordy Roberts. Roberts going back behind Gilles Malott. Off now for Brent Ashton. Ashton for Maruk. Vogelin fanned on it, and Kevin Lowe will cover up at center ice for the Oilers. This is McClellan as we reach the 15-minute mark of the third period. 11-8 for the Edmonton Oilers. Back into the North Star zone. Plutt going back for Minnesota. Tied up over there by Dave Hunter. Up with it is McClellan. McClellan draped on by Mandich, trying to roll it out in front. Finally gets it back for Randy Craig. His shot was knocked out. Craig's going to get another chance. He scores! Randy Craig!
Well, the time of the goal, 15:22. As we get closer, Randy Craig actually gets two shots. He makes the first shot. The rebound comes back. He uses his glove to handle it, takes the second shot, and puts it away for Edmonton. And Edmonton now leading 12-8 as they get closer and closer to that 21-goal record established back in 1920. They got 4 minutes and 38 seconds to do it.
Face off at center ice, controlled by Minnesota. Now he goes into the North Star zone. Giles going back with the North Stars, watched by Anderson. Here come the Stars now as the pass goes behind Plutt. Plutt carrying across the line against Jackson. Bumped by Jackson in the corner. Plutt kicks it free. Off for Payne. Payne tried a centering pass. That was stopped. Plutt comes in, and we'll get a face-off coming up in the Edmonton zone with 4 minutes and 17 seconds to go in the game. The nice broadcast comes your way from the Northland Coliseum.
Burger King presents the McDonald's. An unusual interview. Is it true all of you switched to Burger King?
Yeah!
How come?
Bacon double cheeseburger.
Plain broiling. The Whopper.
French fries.
Being McDonald's, you must take a lot of ribbing.
Yes, we can't show our faces anywhere anymore.
Would you advise everyone to switch to Burger King no matter what their name is?
You bet.
You bet.
Okay, America. Now when you switch to Burger King, you can tell them...
The McDonald's sent you.
Well, Dr. Gregg scoring his 10th goal of the season. At 15:22, the assist going to McClellan and to Hughes.
So one more goal, and we tie a 63-year-old National Hockey League record for most goals in a game. Off the face-off, a save by Grant Fuhrer. The Oilers now with Kenny Linsman at center. Giles for the North Stars, getting it over now for Brian Bellows. Bellows back for Acton. Acton for Bellows, off for Napier in the corner. Napier back behind the goal, rolls it out in front, and here come the Oilers. Donnie Jackson carrying out to center. Dumping it off for Messier. Messier carrying inside the North Star zone. Anderson with Linsman out in front. Tied up over there by Acton. Brian Bellows now for the North Stars. Keeping it in. Donnie Jackson is shot. That one goes wide. Linsman working it over for Anderson. Anderson for Messier. Messier tried to get it out in front. Breaking it up there is Acton. Cleared along the boards, keeping it in. Paul Coffey with a drive. Saved by Malott. 3 minutes and 27 seconds to play. There's a chance now. A drive. A shot kicked away by Malott. And out to center. Paul Coffey now for the Edmonton Oilers. Coffey dropping it over for Playfair, who plays it back in. Stopped back behind the goal by Gilles Malott. Out come the North Stars. This is Bellows with McAdam. 2-on-1. Back for McAdam. McAdam for Ferguson. Ferguson played it out in front, and Playfair breaks that up. Play whistled down by Ron Wicks.
And it appears we're going to have a penalty being called. It's a slashing penalty going against number 5, Playfair, who I believe this is the first time I remember him being on the ice. He was just called up from the Calgary Wranglers, the junior team. Try to pick up once again. You can see right here. Well, we got a little bit off camera there, but anyway, will be a slashing call against Playfair, and the time of the penalty will be 17:01.
So the North Stars, who have 4 power play goals, will try for number 5 as these two clubs try and equal the National Hockey League record. Out here at center ice, The Oilers send the puck into the North Star zone. Dennis Marouk going back for Minnesota, clearing it along the boards for Gordy Roberts. Now Roberts out for Mark Napier. Napier carrying to center, moving across the line. Napier dropping it off for Marouk. Here's a chance out in front. Fuhr makes the save, and it's batted away in front of the goal by Fogelin as it was headed across the red line. Now Pat Hughes for the Oilers, clearing to center. 1 minute and 30 seconds to go in the penalty time to play fair. 2:25 to play in the game. Craig Hartsburg for the North Star. Rink wide for Cicerelli. Into the Edmonton zone, back behind the goal. As Kevin Lowe now for the Oilers. Playing it off the boards, keeping it in is Hartsburg. Off now for Napier, tied up by Hughes. 1 minute and 10 seconds to go. Back behind the goal. Fogelin. Roberts keeping it in, 1:04 to go in the power play. Cicerelli getting it back from Marouk, over for Hartsburg's shot. That was blocked by Lowe on the defense. Gretzky out there for the Oilers, moves it ahead with a glove, and play is whistled down. On the hand pass, 53 seconds to go in the penalty time to play fair. 1:52 to go in the game.
You know, I go into a lot of buildings where the hand pass comes into play. And you can move the puck with your hand. If you direct it to your teammates, then the whistle goes and it goes back to the point where the hand pass originated. A lot of people think you can't do that, but you can use your hand. You cannot close your hand on the puck. That is a penalty. But you can direct it anytime you want with your hand down the ice. I see guys who lose their stick sometimes just shoving it down the ice with their hand. That's legal. You cannot direct it to one of your teammates.
Nor can you score goals.
Right.
Here's Neil Broughton. Moving it over now for Maxwell. 45 seconds to go in the power play. Off for Bellows. Bellows out in front. That was a nice save by Fuhr. That one goes wide as Plett comes up with it. Plett back for Maxwell. Maxwell moves it for Broughton. He fans on it. And now McClellan failed to clear the zone as Broughton keeps it in. Broughton out in front. Fuhr makes the save. Bellows goes after the loose puck. Bellows is knocked down. And Conacher bothered there by Plett. Off for Maxwell. Maxwell for Bellows out in front. 20 seconds remaining in the penalty time to play fair. Bellows back behind the goal. Up with it now, Donnie Jackson. Jackson bumped there by Plett. And the Oilers will work the puck back inside the North Star zone. 5 seconds left to play fair's penalty. And 1 minute and 2 seconds now left in the game is Maxwell. As the Oilers back in full strength, Broughton getting it out to center. Here comes a chance for the Oilers. Here comes Anderson cutting in. Oh, in the goal! And just batting on it was Playfair, who almost had his first NHL goal. That's knocked away by Malott. He's come close many times to equaling that 63-year-old record. 40 seconds to go. Here's a chance for Messier. His shot is pushed wide. Mandich knocks him away. Up with it now is Anderson. By the centering pass, stopped by Marouk. 24 seconds left. Messier getting it out in front. Ashton had it knocked off his stick. Here's a chance for Marouk. As Marouk will carry across the Edmonton line. Dennis Marouk moving in, takes a shot. That deflects off the glass. 10 seconds left. Cicerelli back behind the goal. Into the corner. 1 second to go. And there goes the final siren. That is the end of the game. They put 20 up on the board. 12 for Edmonton and 8 for the North Stars. And failed by 1 in tying a 63-year-old National Hockey League record. It goes in the books 12-8 for the Edmonton Oilers as tonight's broadcast comes your way from the Northlands Coliseum.
Slick.